Automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and this is our massive compilation of all the best products from 2023. Today's video is the culmination of our work with well over 200 products this year, and we took all of what we learned and packed it into today's video. There are time codes below so you can see the different products, and I've added stories throughout this video that'll give you insight not just into the products, but the people and the brands and some stories from us that are associated with the best stuff that came out in 2023. I'm going to give you a little insight into what's coming for next year with many of these companies and how we've operated here at Automate Your Life. So I hope you're ready and I hope you enjoy the best gear of 2023. Let's go. This is a very long video and I don't want to waste any of your precious time. That's because the whole point of Automate Your Life is to save time in your life with tech. So we've broken down the video in ways that will help you to spend your time wisely and watch the things that are most interesting and important to you. But we're going to start off with a top 10 list of some of the most innovative products this year. These are the ones that are pushing the boundaries of what we think about a company, or in some cases even the industry. So let's start off with a company that pioneered this type of device and actually pioneered a whole segment of the smart home industry. These folks really refined their designs this year, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the company after you watch SwitchBot Curtain 3. I think this one's pretty exciting. Come on, let's find out together. Okay, yeah, the SwitchBot remote. We've seen that before. SwitchBot solar panel. Actually, there's a different design on that, so we haven't totally seen that one before. Okay. Let's see. It's SwitchBot Curtain 3. That's right, we have a third generation product. Now, the first thing to note is this is the third generation of the rod design. Okay, so it's not the third generation of the I and the U rails. Those are already pretty good. But the rod version has always been a little more difficult to get perfect. The first thing off the bat, look at this thing. It is very long and very skinny. This is large. We gotta see what's going on. Now, down at the bottom, it is a USB-C charging port, and obviously we've got this option. Now, this is just your plain old charging cable, and I'm gonna get into these other accessories. What do you think that is? It's sticky on the back, so this is a sticky pad, and then there's these two bars in this. Alligator clips. So you get 3 of those in this side of the pack. We've got an alcohol swab or wipe, and we've got our little pin. These are intended to work with a couple of different styles of curtains, like the grommet versions, and then you're going to use that in conjunction in a lot of cases with these alligator clips. Now you also get, here you go, that is a little get in touch with us card. You get a full user manual, which will tell me what the heck is going on here. Dealing with telescopic extendable rod. I have a telescopic No, I can't say that on YouTube. If your SwitchBot curtain cannot pass through the connecting section of the rod smoothly, we provide a rod connector to solve this problem. Please follow the steps below to install. So what this is this is intended to give you an end point. And it looks like in both of the situations that they've dealt with, you might not have an end point in the middle or a bracket in the middle of your curtains. And so they would just keep going, right? And if you're trying to close them together, well, that's kind of a problem for you. So they're actually giving you the opportunity with this little sticker to deal with that issue and to deal with it in a good way. Then if you have that transition part from like a thicker rod to a thinner rod, well, they've given you this to help the device across that. Now let's get into our solar panel. So we've got a user manual for it. We've got a little social media card. Look at this thing. There's a little button. Look at this. Look at this. Wow. Oh, and it snaps in. You've got a little connector that's holding that in. That was a really smart design, boy. Now, one of the really great things about having these solar panels, because you don't have to, okay? You can just take this off, charge it every few months. Number one, it's gonna keep things charged pretty well. And in fact, even without direct sunlight, I've had this indefinitely charged. My Curtain 2 model has stayed indefinitely charged. Power efficiency is something that is often overlooked when we talk about what we can do with our smart home. And this helps you in a really significant way manage things like it's really hot outside, the sun is just beating down on your home. Close the curtains. SwitchBot's new Curtain 3 device is very impressive, and it massively increases a lot of the specifications from the previous version. You'll care mostly about the weight rating increasing significantly, and SwitchBot saying that they expect most of the components to last well over 10 years, in comparison to 5 years with the Curtain 2 products. The design is better for sure, with a better physical connection to your curtain rod and even some stickers that help with sticking points from the past. Those stickers don't appear to be required because I've removed the one that dealt with the telescopic rod since it was ugly as sin, and my curtain has gone along just fine. The other thing I figure you'll care about is how they've designed the motors. Curtain 3 slowly ramps up to start moving your curtains. This keeps it smooth, it helps with power draw, and it keeps overall noise levels lower. And it also leads to the most impressive feature, which is called quiet drift. Your curtains move at a rate that you just plain old won't notice. You won't hear them, and it's an absolute joy to sit and watch. But you won't watch it because you'll schedule these to open at times you want, and you'll use that quiet drift feature to never have any idea that your curtains are moving and have been fully automated. And speaking of automation, you'll be able to use Curtain 3 with SwitchBot's Hub 2 in order to control it with the push buttons on that device. The temperature sensor on the hub can be used too, and you'll be able to use that hub as a matter bridge to both Apple HomeKit and it looks like Samsung SmartThings right away. Those are on top of automation options that already exist in SwitchBot's system, like their own remote that they just upgraded, or other products like their contact and motion sensors. Plus, when combined with things like the SwitchBot blind tilt controllers, you can get a whole home window covering and lighting solution with SwitchBot now. And of course, they have Google and Amazon voice assistant integration, and they've always been one of the front runners with Home Assistant as far as I'm concerned. But for most people, I think you're just gonna wanna control it through schedule and those solar panels. But more on that in a moment. Those new solar panels are upgraded significantly too, with a stiff arm design that allows you to place it in a few different orientations around your curtain devices. It also clips in and then locks in, so it's not gonna fall out. And these are doing a great job keeping my Curtain 3s fully charged with no direct sunlight. But as I make this review, there are a few things that are drawbacks to this new design. The magnetic stickers that they use to indicate the end point or the close location for my curtains are something that you can see if you're looking close enough. The touch and go feature, which is the feature that allows you to just pull on the curtains to get them to move, is degraded significantly. And the solar panel does not allow the same automation features as was available with the previous generation. This was so important because you could automate the location of your curtains based on the light level reading done by the solar panels. Now my sense is this will come very soon, but it's not there yet. Still, this is a remarkable upgrade, and I'm really impressed with the power engineering that's been done by this product team. It is much more accurate in terms of knowing where it is on the curtain rod, and of course there are track versions of this product. Now I know many of you will want more details and will want a comparison versus Aqara's E1 curtain driver that we showcased late last year. So you can check out a link to that in the description below as I went through a full comparison of those two great curtain products. One of the most impressive things to me as an engineer is what SwitchBot does in terms of combining physical movement with battery power. In fact, if you talk to most technical people, they'll tell you that's a really hard thing to do and that's not how you want to power a motor. But what's amazing to me is how effortlessly this company is doing that at this point and how efficient it is within their products. But what's really exciting about the folks at SwitchBot is their intentions for the future. I can't say a lot about it, so I do have to hold some things back here today. That's a little insight into how many conversations I have with companies where I kind of have to keep it off the record till they're ready. But when you look at their robot vacuums and some of the ways that, for example, the S10 vacuum is going to do multiple things, this is a company that's looking to the future in a way that I think will be very helpful to people. They're going to level up a few times in the next couple of years. And speaking of leveling up, this next company is doing just that in a bit of a different way. It is the Aqara Smart Lock U100. Now, if you don't know about this one, this is one of the big 4 releases that Aqara is making this year. We've already seen the FP2 presence sensor, which I was mostly impressed with. I know some people have struggled. That's why I made the video I did that explained how to work with that device. But in general, people are loving that one, what they can do with it. Now, this has some different features for you. It's got a fingerprint reader on it. It's Apple Home and HomeKey supported. That's because Aqara always makes their products work with Apple HomeKit, one of the best systems to pair there. Auto lock and always open mode. 8 months of battery life is a long time, and remote passwords, unlock, and they're saying easy install. But I'll be the judge of that, Aqara. Zigbee, Bluetooth 5.0, and NFC. It's a good set of connectivity standards to use with a smart door lock. I really like that. Getting into the packaging, there's a little measuring guide here. Now, I'm actually having a small door just built for me here, so I'm hoping that's ready right away. I got a little manual. There we go. And now we can have a look at the door lock itself. Yeah, that's looking pretty neat. Okay, this looks, feels, it is the Aqara Video Doorbell G4. Like that's what that thing is. Quite wide, got that same form factor, maybe a little bit wider. I would call it a little bit wider. And otherwise, it's got that same color. And I actually really like that color. The other piece here, which is actually gonna sit on the outside, this is hefty. This is really heavy. I'm blown away by that. That's the only thing I can think of. Oh, and the base plate moved. Look what I found. That's pretty neat. Okay, so that should mean I have keys in here too, which does mean you're replacing your front door key. That can be a little bit tricky for some people. All right, inside of box number 1, we have the funniest looking tool I have ever seen.
That's what she said.
4 AA batteries. Well, that's actually to replace part of your door lock mechanism. So there's actually all of those. There's your bolts. This is a full reinstallation, a full redo of your existing door lock. That's important to keep in mind. There's other types of door locks, right? There's our new keys. Now, you gotta like the new keys you're getting. You got all the hardware here. So that's your inset. Here's your plate on the edge of that. And here is our deadbolt. You've got everything you're gonna need here. Doesn't look too complex either, but let's get back to this bad boy. Now, the way in the end this is gonna go, I can tell. Okay, kind of got that deal going on. Now, a couple of things to note with this. I'm not seeing like a wear out on the pad happening here. This looks pretty good, and I'm not seeing it leaving marks instantly when you're touching it. There's also a lock button here, and there is that. This pad on the back is just sticking here. So I noticed that there is an adhesive on the other side of this. Obviously that's not gonna matter once you get this installed, and I'm assuming that's the same thing over here. There's a lot surprising about this smart lock, not the least of which is how easy it was to install. I had a quote-unquote little door built to start installing these kinds of locks on it, and I was able to install this in about 10 minutes. The finish, the look, and the feel of this lock is really nice. I love that I have the exact same color as my G4 video doorbell, and the two of these will make a very nice pair. The keypad's easy to use, and the fingerprint scanner is excellent. Both of them respond really well to touch, and there doesn't seem to be any residual marks on the keypad after I've touched it, so it's going to be hard for other people to figure out your codes. The battery life seems really good because I moved this lock hundreds of times during my testing, and it really hasn't moved the battery. I don't love trying to get into this in order to install the 4 batteries, but otherwise everything from that physical standpoint seems really great, and the IP65 rating plus the temperature ratings should get this working in a lot of places around the world. But I obviously couldn't test this in the winter in Canada, and I do worry a little bit about the sliding key compartment freezing up in Canadian winters. The integration with Amazon is great with voice and app control. Apple HomeKit is fantastic with the same features. And both apps can run automations that lock the device, plus both can run automations that are based on the status of the lock. Aqara knows that they have issues with Google Home, and I've been unable to control the lock through that app or the Google Assistant. So that should come, but it's not available today. And Matter allowed me to put this into Apple HomeKit through the Aqara M2 hub. That hub is running on the beta that's available today, but from my testing, that has been plenty good. Other platforms can't use the Matter bridge today, so there's no SmartThings integration or anything else really, because Matter bridges like the M2 hub aren't yet being used by those apps. There are a ton of options for control and configuration, so my list here isn't an exhaustive one, but there are a few important ones to tell you about. The alerts are comprehensive and allow you to know when the door has been left unlocked or when someone's tried to enter your home multiple times and failed. You can automatically lock your door after a set time, and there's even a secret code of 00 plus the lock button to stop the door from automatically locking behind you. Away mode notifies you when the lock moves and you're away, and do not disturb mode turns off all the sounds you normally hear. But again, Aqara shines when it comes to the automations available within their app. Most of the features will require Bluetooth connectivity to program into the lock, but you'll want to bind this with one of Aqara's Zigbee hubs in order to get all of these automation features and that pairing with the other voice assistant systems. But those automation options are really unique again. This keeps happening with Aqara products, and I love that I can change the automations based on how the lock was moved. It senses whether or not it was a temporary passcode or a permanent one, whether it was a fingerprint or Bluetooth on the phone or from the outside or from the inside. It can run automations if it was unlocked with Amazon or Google, and it can run different automations on a number of the modes that it has. And based on those things, you can turn on the away mode or the do not disturb mode. You can lock the device. Now, I'm not done with this one, as we're looking at producing a full review for it because it's one of the most fully featured smart locks yet. So stay tuned to the channel as we'll be showing you everything about this lock very soon. At the start of 2023, Aqara told me about 4 different product releases. I could take those 4 products and I could put all of them into the top 5 if I wanted to. I don't think anyone would bat an eye. The fact is, Aqara's hit their stride, and they're really one of the best at balancing affordability with features. And I think you're going to see this company getting better and better as everything I see from them is hitting the mark in some important way. Now, it's not all perfect, and no company is, but if any company had a better year in the tech industry, I'd be surprised. I bet you year-over-year growth in Aqara's sales is as high as anyone. We get to see what they do with that power in the next 2 years. And as my father says, it's those moments when someone has power that you see who they really are. And I think we're in good hands based on what I've seen. As I said, Aqara keeps balancing affordability and features, and I would say reliability really well. They seem to be making really good decisions based on their customers. Do they have it all worked out? No. But I like the intentions I'm seeing. That always tells me a lot about where a company is headed. Today, we have Homey Pro. This is my first product from Athum, who make Homey. Many of you might not have even heard of what Homey and that whole system is, but this is a smart home hub, and it is looking like this system is ready. This is the Homey Pro Ethernet adapter, and you know, I could see that being a pretty important thing to buy, actually. Now, one of the things, you know, they're saying it perfectly here. I'm just gonna read. Homey Pro is a privacy first, local processing, universal smart home hub. Zigbee, Z-Wave, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, infrared, Matter, and Thread coming in Q3 of 2020. Wait a second, it's Q4. Now they have what is essentially called the Homey App Store, and that's how you add on all these other different brands and things. But again, its idea is to be local. This is a large device, like this is big. But it is very nice to look at, and you know, that extra real estate, that might just help us with some of the radios being a little more reliable. Sometimes I've seen things being packed a little too close together and next to other things that can kind of get in the way. Now, inside of the box, all we're getting, very nice looking, nice feeling, USB-C to USB-C cable, and a USB to, you know, your standard 120 power adapter. Some of the US and Canadian focused brands might still be missing here, so they're still working on that side of things. They've been focused really heavily in Europe. Oh, there's a side connection. I didn't see that there was a side. Okay, so the Ethernet adapter, you've got Ethernet there, and then there's a USB-C here and a USB-C. So I would assume that what we're doing is we're taking the power from the wall into the side of here, and we're gonna do this. And now we've got a wired, as soon as I plug in an Ethernet cable, we got a wired smart home hub. There are a few things to talk about how this system works versus some of their other offerings. So they have a lower priced bridge. You know, if you get that, you probably end up in a subscription. They have a $4 a month subscription, but because you're spending all the money here, you actually don't end up with that subscription. You can connect an unlimited amount of devices, use all their services, use everything here. Now, one of the biggest things about this that I've been really interested in is the visual flow creation. And what we're talking about there is a visual method for creating automations that work in a flow pattern as you kind of build them. That's one of the biggest things. It is nearly impossible for me to break down this hub in just a few minutes, but setup was easy, the hub looks great, and my home is way better for having this installed in it. This is the most impressive hub I've brought into my home in a very long time, and when you see the next two hubs in today's video, you might be surprised to hear that. I was able to integrate all kinds of existing devices and existing services into this hub, and the folks at Athum, who make Homey, had actually warned me that some of the integrations weren't ready and that I might struggle with being here in North America. However, I found lots of great options, including IKEA and Aqara Zigbee products, SwitchBot, whether I wanted to do that directly or through their hub, Phillips Hue, Lutron, and many more products, and I'm sure if I just kept digging, I would have more. Plus, this can connect with lots of just general Z-Wave and Zigbee products, and it's an infrared blaster. All of this through a Wi-Fi or a wired PoE connection. And for those of you who have a smart home hub already, you'll know that sometimes you go to integrate a Zigbee or a Z-Wave device and it connects and then the hub doesn't know what to do with it. That still exists here. So there are some devices that just won't work today. You'll need to look at compatibility lists, and Homey is pretty clear on what works well and what doesn't. That's where I need to be delving in deeper, and I need more time with the hub to give you a full, complete review. I will be looking in deeper into Homey because this is the most impressive automation creation system that I have seen. That's because it's incredibly easy to make really complex automations. Everything works. I haven't seen an automation fail. And what's even crazier is how fast they work, and the fact that while you're creating the automations, you can test how they're going to work and see visually what's going to happen. So I've let it take over a number of situations in my home, and I specifically used it with the lighting in my kids' room. What's impressive about that isn't just the speed or the accuracy or the fact that I can change how the lighting is managed based on the time of day and even the illumination in the room, but I was also able to integrate Amazon and then control the devices that were integrated into Amazon's voice assistant. Now that's a cloud integration, and this is a privacy and local automation system first, but I was able to get Amazon Speaker to say things or play things or tell me the weather, and I had access to a lot of Amazon's specific features there. So in my kids' room, I now have a flow that has multiple starters in it. I then have many conditions and many branches of that automation. And while it took me a few times to figure out how the system was working, I can now see the high power of this hub. The one thing that will get everyone is the pricing of the hub. And I have to continue to stretch this with trying to run my entire home. But I will tell you that I'm ready to look at this as an option in my own home. It could replace SmartThings, and it definitely has some capabilities that SmartThing doesn't. So stay tuned, because I'm gonna work with this a lot, but I can already tell you that I've enjoyed a ton with Homey. I don't remember the last time I was so impressed with a smart home hub. I don't think I have been this impressed with a hub after just a few months. And I really think that this could be an entire shift in the industry as I watch Homey continue to make great strides with their different integrations, different features, and they're just constantly bringing out new ones on their hub. Now the pricing of that hub will shock a lot of people, and I still have to work with this hub for longer because I've only had it a few months, but so far it's been bulletproof. And that is in short supply with smart homes. Lots of the products that are still the best in the industry, they still have all kinds of minor reliability issues. And listen, if there's a product with bad reliability, it's not in this list, but Homey Pro is doing so much in my home already, and I'm not finding any of the automations running slow or having problems. I'm not finding any devices disconnecting. It's just working, and it's doing some pretty complex things. So I'm really excited for the future of that one. And I hope this company can balance all of what folks like you and I are wanting from a smart home hub. It's a difficult road to walk, but right now it looks like they're getting it. You're about to see how terrible of a cook I am in the moments that follow. And honestly, there's no product in this entire video that I use more than this one. It's also impacted the health and the well-being of my family, and I've been so impressed with the quality of construction and materials. But it was funny how the relationship with this company, Dreo, developed. We had 3 to 4 products come in from them, and they just didn't fit the channel, so we never showed them to you. It's not that they weren't high quality or good products, they just weren't what we would call smart in this day and age, and you guys don't want to see those. Now, when that happens, most companies walk away because they sent their product and they didn't get something for it. So it often feels like, hey, that guy's not going to do anything for us. Well, this is a company that's determined, and we started to get better and better products from them over the year. We got smart fans, heaters, air purifiers, and everything was really high quality. Plus, it was paired with features that took a basic appliance and made it that much better. And when they hit on that with this next product, I was sold beyond belief. I'm looking forward to 2024 and more opportunities to work with Dreo. We're finally into a world with smart appliances that I think are gonna hit the mark, but I get to find out today. Now, this is called the Dreo Chefmaker. So as soon as I open up the box, first of all, you're downloading the Dreo app. And the Dreo app is pretty good. I've had it with an air purifier. Now I'm actually testing it with a fan as well. Now we've got a pretty good sized user manual, nothing too crazy here. So you take this probe, if I can ever get it out of the box, and then you're going to put that in your food. Here it is. It has a number of presets that are gonna help you cook. This is intended to just do it for you. And that's why it's called the Chefmaker. Let's do it. Oh yeah. There is a lot going on. There we go. Okay, so this is like our little cook. Hey, we can see through. Look at that. Settings, favorites, probe cook, classic cook, and chef mode. Well, you know, I'd like to be a chef. Very easy navigation to go through here. Classic cook, okay. So they're giving you a bunch of different modes for this. You could do everything from roast to air fry, everything in between. This is like an oven. So it's quite a different device. Plus there's just the chef modes and there's the probe mode. So there you go. Now all they're doing is they're giving you, okay, whatever temperature you want to get that to, it's going to bring it to that, right? So you've got a little probe that's going to sit in your food in there. So there's a maintenance, water pipe drain, 2 minutes, and descaling. So because water is going through this system and because it's kind of coming through the top here, they're going to give you some options to drain the water and then descale the unit, just in case you're not finding things taste so good. You know, one thing about Dreo and about the Chefmaker here, it has wireless connectivity. So it's waiting to connect to the Dreo app. And I've used that app before. It's got great interface for controlling the devices there. It's a really clean application. We're gonna have to try it out with this to see how that helps and how that might hinder, but I'm betting you can prep things and then even when you're out of the home, start your food. So it could be just sitting in here waiting for you. One other thing that I think is pretty exciting is I can watch the food cook. Now that's something I haven't been able to do with the Instant Pot. Even if you have it wirelessly connected to their app, you're not getting any details about what's going on. The other thing with this is, yeah, my air fryer, I can't see into my air fryer, so I've got to open it or I'm going to be checking on it, and that's just like an oven. So I'm really enjoying how much like an oven this feels like. You've seen all the pretty buttons, but the real question is, can this turn someone into a chef? Well, I've made everything from salmon to veggies to fries to burgers, and I can see that you can do so much more than I have. The fact is, I just don't know how to use this thing to its full potential yet. But the amazing thing that happened to me on day one was that it raised my potential. Chefmaker was extremely clear with its instructions to me to add water, put in the probe, and then place the salmon all prepared into the device. It didn't teach me how to season or give me recipes, so I hope that's something that Dreo adds later, but all I had to look up were a few seasonings that worked with my salmon, prep it and place it in the bin, then Dreo did the rest. That's because Chef Mode has 3 things that drive how it works. Number 1, when you select the type of food that you'll be making, Chefmaker has a set process that it goes through. In the case of my salmon, it achieves doneness, then it browns the exterior as a second part of the process. Number 2, the probe that you insert into the food tells Dreo when to stop, so even with the process running, it's making intelligent decisions about your food. And number 3, it has an internal temperature, just like other ovens. I look like a genius, and I can't cook. All of this is combined with the interesting addition of water, which in the case of the salmon was being sprayed in small amounts into the oven to keep things really humid in there. All of this was a bit weird to me, but at some point it decided that the salmon was cooked, and honestly, it was cooked to perfection as far as I was concerned. And this happened with everything I've put in Chefmaker. I've not run into something that it can't handle, and your only limitation is that you're gonna have only one of these in your home. That's been my biggest problem, because I wanted to use it for not only the burgers, but then the buns. And you're just gonna end up having to do those things separately if you want everything to time out right. But at the end of the day, my kid has eaten everything that's come out of this. And that's not just a feat of parenting, that's a feat of engineering. That's something that's worth everything to me as a parent, and honestly, at that point, I don't care about the Wi-Fi features or the app. The air fryer mode and the toasting and the broiling modes all work as they should, and this is incredibly easy to clean. In fact, it's the first non-stick surface that I would say is actually non-stick, and the bin is the right size to fit larger meals into it without it being ridiculously heavy. The app has good control of the device, so you can start things after you've walked away, and you'll even get notices that your cook is complete when it's done. Now, Dreo will have to expand the list of items in their chef mode library, and we will have to see how it behaves over the long term. But so far, this is 10 times better than an air fryer or my Instant Pot. Let's kick off this one with a bang. It's the Govee AI Sync Box Kit, okay? Govee's come a long ways in just the last couple of years, and I'm really excited to showcase this one in case you haven't noticed. You get a little join Govee, here's a user manual, here's a quick start guide, and then you're right into this. Now, here's the box. This is the main controller for the whole thing. There's one out HDMI port, and then there's 2 outs on USB-C. Then there's 3 inputs on HDMI and a power input. Plus on the front, well, we get to do the sounds of tech. Yeah, there's 2 buttons. In the words of Zap Brannigan,
it's real velour.
Anyways, it's a luxurious package that we have here.
That's what she said.
These are also very, there's lightsabers here. It's kind of fun. These components are feeling really high quality. 2 HDMI cables. Why? One in, one out? Yeah, probably, eh? Ah. Yeah. Okay. Wait, is this a LED strip? I didn't know this was coming with. This is an LED strip, my goodness. Okay, so it's gonna go on a certain size of screen. So I can tell already, you know, this is for the up, down, the vertical segments on your monitor. And then this is for those horizontal segments. This makes it really easy to get around the corners. This is such a smart idea from Govee. Now what that does is it limits the monitor size that you can have. And yeah, there are limits to this. So these are clearly my stands for these. There you go. That's the stand. It's just going on like this. I've got sticky tape. I'm betting I could put a couple of screws through that, and if I had to bet, the screws are in the package already. They've got some good rubber pads on the bottom, sticky feet. Man, there's a lot of stuff in here. A couple of screws right there. Well, actually, quite a few. Here's our power adapter. Not much to this, not much different than what we've come to expect from Govee and their products. There's some alcohol prep pads, because to get this on the back of your monitor, you want to clean it up a little bit. I don't know about you, but sometimes my office gets a little dusty. And then these hold the strip onto the back really well. So we get a screwdriver, and that's the end of what we get. Did a little reading here. I've uncovered a couple of things. So this is just the power button, the one with the 2 circles, and then the one with just a circle is actually the input switcher for the different sources. Now, I gotta understand exactly how this is gonna work in terms of things like set-top boxes or other video sources. Like, does this become just like a Govee T2 backlight and I can use gaming consoles and other things? That would become like a dream kid setup in my mind right there. I could imagine how excited my kid is going to be when he sees this. Now the question is, am I going to be that nice to him? So let's go. I'm going to install this in my office, and if I ever want to, I'll just switch them monitors because we have the same monitor. This product has a really long name, but it has an even longer feature list, and it executes on all those features at a really high level. It's expensive, but honestly, it might just be worth it. This is especially true to gamers who play Apex Legends, Fortnite, or any of the other games on this list. Then what you'll experience is not just lighting that synchronizes to what's on the screen, but you'll also experience these effects that are specific to each game. And I did not expect to find the effects useful, but some of them are. A great example is when you heal a teammate. The bar actually kind of fills up on the LED strip, and so you have this visual notification of when that's finished. Now, lots of the other effects are fun and exciting and truly do improve gameplay, and that's before we talk about this having a music synchronization feature, a video synchronization feature, the ability to color each segment of both the light strip and the two, what I call lightsabers, independently. All of the scene effects that you've come to know and love from Govee are here too, and their massive library of user-created effects. And that's not all. The gaming box will allow you to connect up to 3 HDMI sources and switch between them with the app or with the button on the box. You can synchronize this with other Govee products too, using the music, video, or basic scenic Dream View features, just like any other Govee product today. You can turn off the light stands, the LED strip, or you can leave them all on, and the box itself shows the color pattern being created on its own little LED strip. And I didn't expect any of this to work with my setup because I kind of have a corner setup with a window, but this is bright, vibrant, and it's all the great colors that we've come to expect from Govee. It's a completely unique lighting experience. It's something I will be keeping for myself, and I cannot wait for the next version that allows even bigger screens and more video games getting specialized effects. Those are the only two gaps here, because if you don't have any of those games, then you don't get the specialized AI effects. And if you have a screen bigger than 34 inches, then it's not going to work with the LED strip. Otherwise, this was easy to install with all the professionalism that Govee has brought to light strips. The equipment is high quality and it's working flawlessly. So if you have a gamer in your household and they play some of those games, this is the absolute perfect gift. Now, if you'll excuse me, I got some more noobs to pwn. No! If that's not a product that changes the entire paradigm of the smart lighting industry, I don't know what is. A lot of people point out that the components of HDMI sync boxes were there with, Phillips Hue having a version. A lot of people will point out that companies like Nanoleaf and some others had apps that you could put on your PC that would help you to mimic that content. But Govee took that so many steps further with collaborations. I can tell you, they're going further with movies and video games in the next year. They're going to take this tech very far, and I think it's a lot of fun. I still personally enjoy the specialized effects in games. And it takes what otherwise would be a color mirroring device and turns it into something much more exciting. Our sixth product I'm going to talk about a little bit because it was kind of a storied path for this product through my home this year. In fact, I removed it in the middle of the year and I gave it away. Now that doesn't mean it was terrible. I gave it to Madeline. She's been with us on our journey on Automate Your Life since basically the very beginning. She wanted a robot vacuum, so I handed her Narwhal Frio as I was off to test other units. Now the thing that surprised me is how much she's using it, how impressed she is with it, and honestly, it's performing better today than it was the day I gave it to her and the day I got it, for sure. It hasn't worn out, and there's really been no maintenance. That's fantastic, and although it's not the cheapest robot vacuum out there, it is the one that I keep coming back to and feeling like it got the most right from all the ones we tested in 2023. And I can also tell you that this company has quite the plan for next year. Can't tell you what that plan is, but I'm already excited. I think they're gonna become really great at something that they're already really good at. Guess what's in this box? It's a robot vacuum and a mop. Oh, okay, but seriously, this is called Narwhal Frio. I'm gonna get it opened up and show you what this is all about. Okay, first things first, let's do a little cut. Now, I actually have the original Narwhal. And it's easily been one of my favorite robot vacuums, plus it was a mop. But Frio has a lot of upgrades. I think I gotta do this. I think I gotta stand up. Hey, guess what? Yeah, I'm wearing pants. So here's the actual robot. I'm gonna pull everything out of here. Whoop. And there is quite a bit. We got our little sweepers in here. And we got more of that. And we gotta pull this big sheet out. And look at this. Okay, see? Narwhal Robot Vacuum and Mop. First use. Oh, it's a big quick start guide. I'm gonna have to keep that around. Ooh, right there. This is the base itself. Now the base is gonna take me some doing to get it out of here. So bear with me. Okay. Woo. We're getting there. We're getting there. Oh, bulbous. It's got a belly on it. Oh, this is beefy. There isn't a lot of components in the box, actually. We've got the big base here. This is the whole station. It'll return here. There's water. There's all kinds of stuff that's gonna go in here, including the robot vacuum itself. Now, this is Narwhal Frio, and you know, the differences are already showing up. These were not installed on the previous version. I had to install them myself. It looks like the only thing I need to install here are these two, and they're color-coded little sweepers. They're color-coded, so the purple's on the right here. And the idea with Frio that I think is so freeing, and I think that's the point of the name, is that it's gonna switch automatically between mop and vacuum. So inside of the box, what you get, big quick start guide right there. You get a little pamphlet. I'm not sure what's in here other than, oh look, a bigger user guide. You get the robot itself and two sweepers. On the bottom, there is a removable beater bar. Okay, so that's just the top, and then that's just the compartment, and then you'll be able to remove that should you ever have any issues. You want to get it cleaned out better. And then the mopping pads, and the other thing is you're going to be able to take those off. They're actually Velcro. I can feel the Velcro coming. And that's about it. That's about all you ever need to worry about with the actual physical device. I do have to remove this little thing. As with most robot vacuums, there is a spot to replace the filter. Quite easy to remove and put the new filter in. Plus, we can take out the entire compartment here, which will hold all of the dust and stuff that Narwhal is going to pick up as it goes throughout your home. And then it's a simple, there it goes, way to get that dumped out, basically. And then that's your filter right there that you're going to replace every so often. Inside of the compartment, I like when they do this, there is a little spot for this tool. So this allows you to cut out things that get stuck in the robot vacuum itself, and then there's a little brush to kind of push things around in there. And it's just a little compartment. That was the sounds of tech. I love the sounds of tech. Now, these things, if you don't know, I gotta move this thing, excuse me. Now, these things, if you don't know, they are full of sensors. I've taken a few of these apart actually with my kid. It's always a fun little adventure. But you know, there's lots of little sensors. There's a pressure sensor here. Basically, it's gonna feel when it's running into things. You can see on the front there, there's a couple of, well, they look like sensors actually of a different kind. And then this on the top usually indicates LiDAR on most of your robot vacuums. So just something for you to identify for yourself. Now this one actually looks really amazing around the edges here of that little sensor. It lifts up in order to give you access to the robot. And you know what I'll say is this is incredibly smooth. Sometimes when you're working with these, yeah, they can feel quite rigid and like they will struggle to move around your home. But this is like, wow, actually. This unit is quite heavy, I will tell you that. This is not a light robot vacuum, but with all of the functions on it, kind of what we would expect. Okay, now let's move in the base. And the base is where a lot of the magic happens for robot vacuums. Now with Narwhal itself, there's a lid you can lift up, and then inside of there, we actually have a couple of containers. Now these two containers are for the clean and the dirty water. So you're really just gonna be filling one up and then you're gonna be taking the other one and dumping it out. That's for the mopping function. There's two little handles on the side of this, which is really quite important. And on the back, you've actually got the component or the compartment for power. The other thing that's really different about Freo is there's a whole touch screen on the top of this. You're gonna be able to control the robot, you're gonna be able to send it to do things. But for the most part, I think honestly this one, it's gonna be left in Freo mode in a lot of cases, and that's just gonna make it easy on all of us. That's actually what the inside of the compartment looks like, because we got a bunch of other stuff in here. I would assume a power cable. Well, isn't that nice? I got some lemon and basil specially formulated floor cleaner, and that is something to think about with, you know, these specialty robot vacuums. They do usually recommend their own floor cleaner, so you kind of got to think about that. I don't know what this little widget is, and I got my power cable. That's it. So at this point, I'm ready to go. Let's get this set up. Let me show you how it works, and then we'll talk about the performance that we're getting out of Freo. Narwhal Freo has been the best robot vacuum I've ever had, and with its included mop, it is the first one that I can tell you has truly saved me time. I've had it for over a month now, and I put it through some of the most rigorous testing. And while it isn't perfect, its mop is excellent, as you can control the amount of water and detergent that's coming out of Narwhal. Plus, it swings its back towards the edges in your home to make sure it gets as much as it can. Its vacuuming is excellent too, as the sweepers run at different speeds and are specifically designed to push material in front and to the middle of the vacuum so it runs over and sucks up all the debris around your home. You can also control the suction power, and except for the maximum suction power mode, Narwhal is extremely quiet. For the price, this will be worth it for some people and not worth it for others. And I say that because you can't map a second level at this time, and it doesn't auto empty the dustbin compartment. However, it does decide when to clean the mops, and it gets them very clean. It pulls the dirty water out and automatically brings in clean water and the detergent. It truly is a set and forget device because it shows you all of the maintenance timelines you have, and it notifies you when you have anything to do. Otherwise, it just quietly goes about its business and it gets the job done. Now, this next product is from a company that's had a bit of a storied past, especially when it comes to smart home cameras. These caught me off guard because I had tried TP-Link and Casa cameras many times before, and I just found the offering to be off-putting. Everything was tied to a subscription and the footage wasn't that great, and I just didn't love the whole package that I was getting. And then these next cameras hit, and they fell in line with the rest of the smart home products that TP-Link has been making for years. They generally make things that just seem to work, and I love that most of their products work locally in your home, even when combined with other smart home platforms. So now with these and with the other cameras that I have from them, the company is now a true competitor in the smart home camera space. And I think this will hit the right spot for a lot of people. The only problem is it's not available everywhere. And I heard that from you guys in the comments a lot. There are thousands of smart home security cameras available today, and far too often we're sold based on one or two supposedly strong features. Words like AI recognition, color night vision, and local storage fill sales pages with things that get us to buy. And when I review cameras like that, I'll often find a major gap, or I'll find the need for a subscription, or I'll find an issue with installation. So I personally have been frustrated by the lack of a well-rounded, simple, and extremely effective smart home security camera option that does all the things we truly need. And when I received the pack of wire-free MagCams from Tapo, I thought I was getting another system that could do a couple things well, because I had used TP-Link cameras in the past and hadn't been all that excited about their offering. But something has come together for this company. I want to show you how simple and easy and effective smart home cameras should be through a breakdown of how these work today. One of the biggest pain points of cameras today is whether you can actually identify someone. You'd think that would come first, but companies will tout 2K, 4K, or 1080p, but clarity is what matters. Things like lights being in the frame, lighting conditions in general, or the distance ratings of IR LEDs change how things look. These cameras have consistently given me a clear picture in any of those situations, and I've pushed the boundaries with smart lighting being in frame. The other big point I've had is the start time of a camera's recording. When we rely on the camera to identify the time to start filming, we often miss most of the event and barely see the person. These are consistently giving me 1 to 2 extra seconds of critical footage so I can actually see what happened. Now, a lot of companies are coming out with dual cameras because their field of view is being balanced with resolution and sensor size. They're worried a wide field of view will take away from that clarity, and they're right. This camera has given me a huge field of view, even allowing me to see all the way into my neighbor's driveway while still maintaining that clarity. Something else we see with most cameras is that they are limited in where you can place them by the mounting options and things like IP ratings. These cameras have the highest IP rating I think I've ever seen, and they have 3 mounting options that can be expanded further by a little bit of ingenuity. Now, many cameras promise AI detection, and many cameras fail completely. There are very few companies that I have seen that can actually tell you when a vehicle, a person, or even an animal is in frame. And not only does this camera show you what it's detecting when you look at the live stream, but it gives you proper notifications. And whenever I watch a clip, I'm actually getting what I expected when it said a vehicle was detected. And that's before we talk about reliability, local storage options, the details of that AI detection, an impressive settings menu that gives you what you need and none of the other crap, integration and automation options with Amazon, and the fact that for the first time in a very long time, I truly have a camera in my hand that does not need a subscription at all. This is a product that is 3 versions in the making, and its usefulness continues to get better. I first covered this years ago. Now, this is called Sentinaire 3. It's the 3rd version of a smart home camera with a very different purpose than what you're used to. Now, I got a little manual in the box. We'll look at that. But this camera is way upgraded. It's way different than it's been in any of the previous versions. Off the hop, what I'm seeing, you have tripod or screw-in mount options on both the back and the bottom of this camera. The lens, I can see there's a mic, there's a speaker on here, and I can see a slot for an SD card as well, a micro SD card and a USB-C power port plus a power button on the top. There's quite a bit of mounting hardware. Now, this mount looks every bit as good as other ones. It's a plastic mount, so don't expect a big metal mount there. You get some screws, some wall anchor right there, and you get a USB-C to USB-A and a power adapter in here. Now I want to show you the big point of this, okay? This is intended to be a smart activity sensor, and in a lot of cases you're going to use it to help people who are prone to falling down, or they might just need a little bit of extra support in their life. What I really loved about this idea at the start is right here on the box. So there's a stick figure being displayed instead of the actual person. And that gives you, number one, a lot of insight into how they are processing information, but it also gives you a lot of insight into the approach to privacy here and security. Now I can recalibrate and I can set regions of interest. So here's the interface. That interface, you know, you can color lines, you can make rectangles. You're able to choose an entrance, exit, restricted region, overstay detection, absence detection. You'll get alerts on the restricted, overstay, and absence areas. And I've been able to break down a region by people group. See that right there? I'm able to say, okay, this is a specific restricted region. I can manually draw it in. And I mean, this is like a coloring book. So now if anyone categorized as a senior, which I have to add people into the app. You can see it right there. As you add people, you take their picture, you put in a picture of their face, and then you categorize them as a senior or staff or a visitor. When I went to CES many years ago, I saw this system along with a number of others that claim to be able to do things like fall detection, presence detection, and monitoring of seniors or people who just need a little extra help. The fact is, none of them were accurate enough then. And I have to caveat what I'm about to say with, nothing is perfect. But this works, and it works really well. It detected me in regions of my kitchen that I wanted it to, and it sent notifications and a playback of the incident. It detected me laying down in front of it, and it sent notifications about my quote-unquote fall. And it detected me waving at the camera, asking for help when I was standing there. It allows me to instantly call through the onboard speaker and microphone and check in with the person on the other side too. And it detected that it was me specifically. And the app allows you to customize what different types of people in the home can and can't do, and whether or not you'll receive notifications based on their activity. And it detected all of this without showing me on camera even one time. The biggest privacy issue with this system is that I had to upload a few pictures of myself so it could recognize my face. That's how it works. The camera detects people by face after you upload 4 pictures at the right angles. Then you categorize them, and then you set the rules for regions and other things like fall detection. Then you categorize them, and then you set the rules for regions and fall detection as well as waving, and then you'll get all those notifications and detections. Now it did all those things, but don't think you're going to cover a huge area with a single one of these and be done set up in 10 minutes. Don't get me wrong, you can set them up in 10 minutes, but you have to think about things like kitchen islands, couches, and more getting in the way of the fall detection features. So I'd say just cover a space like mine with 2 of these cameras and you'll be great. You have a good range of heights to install these at and good tools to make sure your coverage is right. Then you'll have a private, secure way to monitor someone, a way to communicate with them whenever you want, or a way to help them with issues remotely. And here's the craziest thing, because if you get Amazon's Miss A Together feature, then Amazon's voice assistant will respond and ask if someone who's fallen needs help. And it actually works. It requests 30 seconds after you have fallen to call your emergency contacts or call for help, and you get to answer yes or no. So this is a truly smart system. It's truly useful, and I'm truly excited that something like this exists today.
Your device reported a fall. Do you want me to call urgent response? Please say yes or no.
No. But I do need to get these opened. These are the outdoor neon rope lights from Govee. We're gonna have a lot of stuff in this one. A couple of alcohol pads. Oh, by couple I meant 4. We've got a social media card, a user manual, box number 1, which is actually I think box number 3 in the box. This is a big transformer, 24 volts at 3 amps. That's why it is massively large. Also, this is really an important thing to note. You're gonna notice this on lots of like Christmas decorations and stuff. This kind of a connector creates a pretty good seal. If you wanted to additionally seal that, you could use something like tape, but I don't think you need to. And you might mess with heat dissipation ratings. Per bag here, we got 2 steaks. Let me break out one of these steaks. You definitely take out the vampire with that steak, and I think it's gonna help you turn corners. It's very interesting. Oh, and then these are different vampire killers. Wee, wee, wee. So this is the way the connector goes. You do have to get the orientation right. You push it on and you twist that, creating quite a good seal. It's absolutely gorgeous. The rope itself, it looks exactly the same as the indoor version. There's nothing discernible here that you're gonna notice along the whole length. Like, you're not seeing any markings. There's really nothing going on here. When you're getting this thick, things don't bend. So, you know, some of you know this, some of you don't. You know, it's not bending up and down, okay? So it's just gonna bend this way, that way. That's all you're gonna get out of this one. I can bend it quite tight too. So, you know, like, that's a pretty tight corner to have turned with something of this kind of a design. It is pulling against me, so you're gonna have to brace it really well, but you've got the bracings, you've got things. 10 meters, it is a 10 meter device, so I've got a lot to work with here. Unfortunately, I can't cut it into 2. The other unfortunate thing, I get why this didn't happen, but you don't have any buttons here like you do with indoor versions, other things that Govee produces. I'd be very interested if that is a microphone port, but I think it's just a light. I don't think there's a microphone port on this one, for good reason. So there is just the one marking on the strip. That's amazing. You think 10 meters of light strip or 10 meters of this rope light, and that's all the markings they're putting on there. It's because they know the colors are going to tell the game. Otherwise, let's go find out about this one. I want to get this installed like right now. Can we do it now? Let's do it now. Govee's made another banger with this one, as once again we have a high quality lighting product with an incredible amount of features. It's also physically a really well designed product, and I know that rope lights are something that a number of companies make, but the materials that Govee is using are much better than another version I'm testing from another company right now. It's soft rubber, but not too soft, and of course the LED strip is the most vibrant I've seen. Plus, the power cable coming off this is pretty long itself, and that's allowed me to place it in a good location and then run my extension cord. Yes, I still needed one around the edge of my home. Now, I can perfect that look later, but I just wanted to get a look at these lights themselves. And I'll put it to you this way. I have enough cameras around my place to know when people stop and stare and ask questions. And I have watched a number of people, and especially the neighborhood kids, stop and ask what's going on when these things turn on at 6 p.m. and then keep going till 11 p.m. at night. The effects are spectacular, and we still have access to all of the different features that Govee provides with their app, their different effects, music, and even with this strip, you don't have to turn on all of the light strip, so that allows you to create really different looks. So the effects are spectacular, and the colors are lighting up my entire home, despite this just being a rope light sitting in a garden bed. I can't wait for Halloween and I can't wait for Christmas. Although once it starts to snow and the temperature gets below -20, I'm gonna have to remove these and bring them inside. And that's okay because the snow would cover it anyways here, but the installation wasn't difficult. And all those little accessories that came in the box made it almost enjoyable to stick the stakes in the ground and then wrap this rope light around my garden. And if a vampire ever attacks, well, I've got a few stakes. Now, it's not the nicest garden, and I've been frustrated with how it looks, but I am not capable of fixing that. What I am capable of is distracting people from the plants, because that lighting is spectacular. People don't think about water damage in their home until they've gone through it, but it's such an impactful experience. I still remember every time we had a leak in our home growing up, and I've experienced a few since. Now, one of the ways to stop that kind of event from happening is to make sure that you have leak detection with a valve controller for your main water valve in your home. I've seen a lot of these controllers, but those valves are often in a mechanical room and they very rarely allow Wi-Fi signals to be there reliably over the long term. So when the proverbial poop hits the fan, you want something that's going to turn off your home's water every single time. Now, one of the best products that I have ever seen came from a couple of brands working together. Those companies were EcoNet Controls and Yolink. Now, why this solution works so well is because Yolink is a home automation system that uses what's called LoRa. LoRa is a technology that is using a lower frequency versus Wi-Fi. And it actually has a range of up to 1/4 mile. Now, LoRa is highly reliable, and within mechanical rooms, it's going to stay reliable. That basis to LoRa is combined with a number of other things to make this a near perfect leak prevention system. For example, number one, the actuator and the motor used is, from an engineering standpoint, fantastic. It's balanced, there's no vibration, and it even drew even power throughout the entire movement. Number two, this found the ends of actuation perfectly. I never felt like my valve or piping could be cracked through over-torquing. And number three, Yolink allows you to directly pair any of their LoRa devices to the actuator. This meant that leak sensors could be paired directly, and anytime there was water detected here, the valve was closed immediately without the need for a hub or an internet connection. And that last point is an Achilles heel of so many leak detection systems. When you require a hub or an internet connection or just another device in the middle, you're opening yourself up to having the system fail when you have that big event. This kind of a system relies on nothing but near perfect technology with a high engineering value, and yet somehow a pretty low cost. Now, I said I would tell you if there were gaps, and there is always a gap with power with this kind of device. So I think you'd want to stick this on a battery backup in case the power goes out. There is an alternate option from a company called Zeus. They built the Zeus Titan actuator, and it's so close to perfect because if you put it with the right hub, it would have all of the properties that the Bulldog has, except for the fact that it would need that hub. It uses Z-Wave communication, and that will again work really well in those mechanical rooms. And it includes an onboard leak sensor, so you don't necessarily have to buy a separate one to protect around the valve. We just went through a lot of products, and all of those have that unique ability to change a pretty significant thing in your life. And even the pretty items are something that changes your life a little bit. Now for me, the outdoor rope light, that brought the kids in the neighborhood to my home, and they come by quite a bit and they want to check out the cool effects and they want to get it changed. And now I actually ended up with more relationships in my neighborhood because of that item. It's, you know, truly, like, I'm an introvert and I kind of don't want those relationships, but all right. All of those products have significant benefits to them, right? And I think 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been saying that about the top 10 products, or at least I wouldn't have been saying it about most of them. And they wouldn't have had these long feature lists associated with them. So it's great to see the industry turn a corner and start to produce devices that, yeah, they have technology embedded in them, but they provide additional benefits while still doing the basic things we need them to do. One thing you might notice is that some of those products and some of the products in the video going forward are a few years old. I didn't want to just give you everything that came out in 2023 and say that's the best. Yeah, some of the things from up to 3 years ago are better than some of the things that came out today. And in fact, there's a product in this video that I think you could have had 10 years ago in your home. So yeah, as we go in today's video, you're gonna notice some older products. I'm not here to just give you what came out in 2023. I'm here to give you the best available in 2023 that we took a look at. Speaking of which, I'm gonna give you a few things you can bring into your home. I call them like a home appliance. They can go in your windows, or they can go in your kitchen, or somewhere else in your home, and they become that fixture. A couple of these products were released in 2022, and the basis for the third was released in that same year, but then improved this year. So all of these next products are really highly rated and have been out for a while. So they have longevity and they're proven. So I think that's a pretty good combo, but you get to decide. Now this might be one of the first ones out the door, and that's always a dangerous situation when you're someone like me, because you could spend a lot of time on devices that are brand new, like the SwitchBot Blind Tilt Controller. Now, I have a few of these inside of the box, and I've got some of these. So I ended up with 3 of these. I'm only gonna get one of them opened up today. There are certain blind installations that are going to work with these, but this is something that we showed on our interview with SwitchBot. And if you haven't watched that, they still have more interesting products to come. On first impressions, this is a lot smaller than I thought it was gonna be. They're saying there's a 2000 milliamp hour battery inside of this device. Honestly, it's not even a hand length. So I'm quite surprised at what I'm holding in my hands here.
That's what she said.
There's a little charge port on the top, a little button on the bottom. Looks like there's a little light or LED indicator, and I think this is gonna pop off. I don't wanna break it just yet, but yeah, it looks like if I push that up, that opens up. That's how you're gonna get it over your existing blinds there. Here's what we get in the box. Here's the main blind and tilt shade unit. Here's the solar panel with its own attached cable. That's gonna go in the top here. There's a little locking mechanism on it. Now I can lock that on there. This is called the Open Flex holder, I think. Open Flex coupling. Here is the cord holder of some sort. We still have a Type-C power cable. Obviously that'd be for charging if you weren't going to use the solar panel. Maybe some of your installs won't have that. There is a pin to release here, and then these are some adapters. It's saying a number of different sizes. So S right there, here's a medium one. It looks like an L, and I bet you there's an XL. Plus, there's some screws here and an alignment sticker. So from what SwitchBot is telling me in the instructions here, this is actually the last stage of the process, but it looks kind of cool. Now, you're gonna basically find out the size of your curtain rod or your blind rod that's hanging down, and this is gonna twist it for you. So you're gonna use one of these adapters. You're gonna end up probably using this one, and I think these go on the inside of this, and then the whole mechanism is just basically gonna turn it for you. So I can see a little gear inside of there, and you're gonna make that, you can see that little connection there. That's how it's gonna twist things. So, you know, we're back to like grade 4 science here, people. With gears, but it feels incredibly effective in terms of a turn ratio. I don't think it's going to use a lot of energy, and they are saying a lot of battery life on that one. Oh, I tell ya, it's hot in here, and it's hot outside. It's getting hot everywhere. So I got me a fan from my friends, Dreo. Now, if you didn't know, last year I got a air purifier from this company, and I was very, very impressed with that product. So I've been excited to talk to these guys a few times. Their app design is actually pretty good. You know, I was expecting like a little fan. I mean, I am blown away with how this thing looks, but you know, you're getting a couple of things. You're getting a user manual, and I think this is gonna be both a remote and an adapter. You know why I think that? Because it says it. That's a pretty serious adapter right there. Like, we're not fooling around. This is a 24 volt, and it's got to deal with 2 amps at that 24 volt. So it's not a small fan here. This is going to move a lot of air. Now, I just want to show you guys a couple of things with this. Like, I gotta get that close up. Look at the design on this thing. First of all, the color is spectacular. There is a little lock mechanism here. So it looks like you could actually open up the unit. I'm not sure what that's about. There's a power on. Ooh. Oh yeah. Oh. Shut the front door. There is vertical and horizontal oscillation. Stuff's flying around my house. We're on level 7 too. So, oh, these guys are fun. That's unbelievable. Look at where it's going. It's like way up. What is going on? Normal or auto, and then 3 seconds for turbo. Oh, it's counting down on the stand. Here it goes. We're in turbo. We're in turbo. We're oscillating vertically and horizontally. This is wild. Oh yeah. Now, you saw my reaction when I opened up the box and saw this fan. I couldn't believe how it looked, and I still can't believe that this is a fan. The horizontal and vertical rotation is an impressive feature, and even how Dreo implemented that is really nicely done. It just smoothly moves along, and it does both seamlessly together. But those features, along with the many other features you'll see on the buttons, expand greatly when you do connect this to Dreo's app. The setup took just seconds, and the device connects over your home's Wi-Fi to the app, but it stayed connected in my home, and I've had no issues controlling this either by voice with Amazon or Google Voice Assistants, or through Dreo's app. In fact, response is immediate through the app. And speaking of those voice assistants, you get this incredible array of commands with this fan. You can change through all the different modes. You can turn on and off things like the vertical and horizontal oscillation. But there is a pretty impressive control interface in the app itself. You can go between all the different modes, and for example, there's a natural mode that adjusts the fan speed up and down a little to give it a more outdoor type of feel. There's a manual mode where you can adjust the fan speed, and a sleep mode that takes it down to almost no sound. But the auto mode is really interesting because there's an onboard temperature sensor, and that sensor allows you to set up different fan speeds based on the temperature in your space. At that point, the fan would just come on and blow at that speed. Now, Dreo created a version of this for air conditioning units where you just sit this somewhere in front of the air conditioning and it would blow that cool air around your room based on how cool it is in the room. But I've enjoyed it because when the temperature gets really high, I've set it to increase the fan speed and to cool me off more. I can adjust where it's blowing in the app, or I can adjust it physically. Plus, I can adjust the oscillation distance and get it exactly calibrated how I want it. I've used that feature to stop it from blowing away papers in part of my room, but still having it move around. Simply put, I was blown away by this fan. It's truly a smarter implementation of what is otherwise a very simple device. That is the Falcon S, and it's a smart fan. Now this is the smart pedestal fan, and it's called the Polyfan Max S. So this is just the stand version of that. Weird, wild components in here. Now, I gotta tell you, that Falcon, that was something. Here we go. Pull that out of there. Quick start guide. That's nice. Okay. Nice base. Lots of room underneath. I can tell we will be feeding a cable through there. Now this is plastic, but this is heavy. That is serious stuff. Oh, there's my nice little remote. This is a IR remote, and this is my battery tab. So as soon as I pull that out, this is ready to go. Yeah, we get this that thing. And now I feel like we're in. No, oh, I lifted that, and I was ready. But that's actually not very heavy. This is nice. Ooh. You know, when I opened the Falcon, I went, wow. And I am, again, going, wow. Now this, like the handle here, it's like a leather, and I think it actually is. Is it? No, it's plastic. I think it's plastic. Okay, I had to grab everything out of the box here. So we've got the big main stand, which I'm gonna get to in a second. Here's the base. We have an adapter. We have a little, well, this is a heck of an Allen key and screwdriver. Then we have a bolt and a washer, screwdriver, like tiny screwdriver. I don't know what that one's for. And then we've got the IR-based remote, and we've got the user manual. There's also a quick guide available. So that's where these two are going. I can hold that, set it down, and we can basically build this thing in about 3 seconds. Here's what I'm really interested to see with this one. Ready? Yep. So this will work with both my Dreo fans. That is lovely. There's a few things that I didn't expect here. Now, you're supposed to carry it from there, by the way. This is an adjustment collar, they call it. 6-inch difference. And that actually doesn't make it that tall. I thought it would be a little taller. But the other thing I didn't realize was this is where that goes. Now, I don't love that we're in the middle of the fan. I wish it had kind of come through here. And that's the only real thing that I would say design-wise I'm not in love with. Whoa. There's a blow over the camera. Woo! Wow. Yeah, that's the good stuff. We have a full review of these fans, but honestly, they're fantastic. I've been nothing but impressed with these, and everyone I've shown them to has absolutely loved them. First off, these are strong and well-built fans. They are quiet, stable, and powerful. Over the last 3 months, I have seen zero change in how they perform, and that's just from the physical standpoint. From a connectivity standpoint, these work extremely well with the voice assistants because of all the different commands you can use to control them. They don't work with traditional smart home hubs, and I have seen some options for putting them through the Hub's home bridge, but I think most people will be happy with the onboard automation features and a little voice control. That's because they have a remote, and the app is highly responsive, and there are physical controls on both of these fans. Plus, you're pretty much not gonna have to interact with them because you can turn them on through scheduling in their app, or you can use the very best feature. If it's too hot in your home, like it is in most homes right now, the onboard temperature sensor can cause the fans to turn on and to a specific speed. As the temperature adjusts in your home, Dreo's fans will adjust their speed based on your preferences. These work really great with air conditioner units to push that cold air around a very large space. And the other really nice thing is how you can control the vertical and horizontal oscillation. You can adjust the range in the app so you can stop blowing papers around your home. These are what I would call a near perfect integration of an appliance we all use with smart. They don't need the smarts, but the smarts improve those basic features of the appliance. I don't know what's in here. It's a big old box. Giant box out of the way. It's the Aqara Smart Pet Feeder C1. It works with Aqara, it works with their hub. It's gotta go with a Zigbee hub from Aqara. And you're gonna be able to automatically feed your dog and know all kinds of things. Here we go. I like there was nothing else in the box, so this is what we got. That's a really nice power cable, and it's USB. So like, can this thing just go into a USB port and be powered entirely off of that? Woo. So that's it. You're gonna put the dog food in there and you're ready to go wherever you should want to feed Rover. Now there are some buttons on here, but I imagine we're never gonna have to push that. Why is there a microphone button? Voice record button. This is it's a voice record button. Okay, that's really interesting. So I must be able to say, hey, in this case, Gidget, hey, come and get your food. And then that should prompt the dog to come back all the time. There's a feed button and a reset button. I didn't expect to care for this at all. I've tried a few other automated pet feeders and they've always underwhelmed and even had issues. But the C1 seems to get past a lot of those issues, and it has some customizable feeding features that truly will matter to the average family. For example, if you want to feed your dog 5 times a day, you can do that, and you can set different amounts. You can change the standard feeding amount too, so you actually have 2 different levers to pull on in order to adjust how much you feed your pets. Plus, the ability to record your voice and have that come out whenever food is doled out is a nice touch, and that exists on other units today. And I will say that this isn't the best quality speaker, but it's going to be more than enough for your pet to recognize that food is available. But the best feature with this comes when you have the Aqara G3 camera. You can have it look at the bowl when food comes out and recognize what's going on. This allows you to monitor your animal and get a recording of that. Plus, you could communicate through the camera. The G3 is also really useful to pair with this because it is a hub and this is a Zigbee pet feeder. But the fact that you can use D batteries or power from the wall makes this especially good for fitting in the right spot in your home. And I'll say it's not too large. Plus, with the C1, you can connect it to Samsung SmartThings hubs. So this opens up another option for managing the product. So it's quite the device and it has good compatibility. So I'm enjoying this one, and so is my pet. I think just about everyone's favorite part of a smart home is lighting. Smart lighting has gone the furthest for sure in the industry. We can even see a lot of cheaper lighting products getting smart features now. It's truly becoming ubiquitous within lighting to get smart lighting. And that means it's getting harder to stand out. In fact, I cut some products from this list that, like, when they first came out, I thought they were the best in the industry for sure. There's products like the Yeelight Cubes, Aqara's T1 light strip, and actually a ton of light strips that came out this year and absolutely could have made this list in any other year. But there's so much good smart lighting available. Those products got cut. And I'm sure you're gonna be able to name all kinds of products that you think are maybe better than these lighting products coming up. But I promise you, all of these have a unique experience to offer you. You can't get those experiences anywhere else, and you can't get it at the quality that you're getting it at with these. Oh, this is pretty neat. This is the Eve Flare. Now, this is a new generation of a portable smart LED lamp. Now, this version is a thread device with a promised upgrade to Matter in the future. And actually, I've been talking to the folks over at Eve pretty regularly, and one of the hang-ups always with their products is that you don't have an Android application, you can't get it into Google, you can't get it into Amazon, SmartThings, all those systems. But now that we're talking about Matter with Thread coming to this device, we can get it just about everywhere. Just the physical nature of this thing is what I'm blown away by. So this is a 10-inch, I believe that's diameter, essentially a smart globe. Holy smokes, look at this thing. Look at that. It has wireless charging on it. I did not know that. Look at that. Okay, so that must mean, if I dig in over here, look at that. Wireless charging right there. Also on the bottom, you know, you've got another HomeKit code here. There's a mode and a power. Now this has a battery in it. They say it's long lasting. I don't know if it's gonna be long lasting. What do you call that? It's got some texture on it, so it's not completely smooth. But you don't really notice until you pick up that it's got that little bit of texture. Okay, there's not much to that. So if you wanted to set this as a fixture all the time, there you go. Now there's a little, like a hook here that I think is gonna pop out. Yeah, I think that's like a hanging hook. I need the right power adapter. I've got 4 in the box. And with the power adapter here, Eve is giving you the opportunity to switch between them all. You also get, for the 3rd time in this package, that HomeKit code. This doesn't actually have a power port on it. They were thinking the feet on the bottom allow us to get that cable out. You could go in pretty much any direction. You can get this under without making the mount tippy or move, so you can hide a lot of that cable. The other thing, you know, with this stand and with the ability to kind of hide that cable under the stand in a lot of cases, and even around the base here, these could be exceptionally good beside a bed. A pair of these, I think, could look really, really nice. Smart lighting has really exploded this year with all kinds of new and fancy lighting effects on top of new form factors. But the Eve Flare has come out and now works with thread. That means it's on the path to Matter over Thread, as we've seen Eve do with some of their other products. And it also means that it's much more reliable than the Wi-Fi version. Now, not only have I experienced perfection when it comes to reliability with Eve Flare, but I have taken this thing all over my house and even taken it outside. It stayed connected, and I've been able to control it either through the Apple Home app or through Apple's voice control. I can add it to all of the automations in the Home app, and I can pick and choose the colors. So it's not an overly complicated smart light, and I would even say that it is so simple from an effect standpoint that some people will feel disappointed. That is until they look at it. It's gorgeous, and it doesn't need the effects. It's also made of the right material to be a really soft ambient background light. And with that battery base, you can take it wherever you want. Once it's run out of battery, which did happen after a couple of days of being off the charger with general use, you'll have to take it back and sit it on the charger, which is also a nice touch. My only complaint would be that I want more of this from Eve. I want more versions with different sizes, and I want the ability to change colors dynamically when it's on the charger. But otherwise, when Eve gives us either Matter compatibility or an Android application later this year, this is one of the best smart home lights because it's completely enjoyable and it can fit every home. Now this one is from a company called Divoom, and it says Times Gate. Now I don't know what Times Gate is, but this company last year, they had sent like a panel. It was a very customizable panel. And when they sent that, honestly, since that time, it has been one of the most requested items on my channel. Hey, what is that in the background? What is that thing doing? Everybody wants to understand it. So this could be pretty wild. Now look at that box right off the hop. That already looks awesome. Wait, it's not a box. It's a bag. We can go shopping. Oh, look at this thing, you guys. I cannot believe what I'm looking at. Like, this is something you would get in a video game for sure. Oh, okay. There's lights on the back. Look at the lights on the back. Okay. We've got a QR code over here. They're saying, okay, it's ready to configure. And you've got the buttons on the top there all lit up right now. And I just hit the light button. Look. Whoa. Oh, the light is cycling through. Look at those lights in the sides here. Look at that. You see? Oh, there's different effects. This thing is crazy. Okay, let's hit mode. Whoa! Look at that. So that was one of the things that the panel did before was you had like the ability to download different things and then display it. Okay, there's the Divoom app. And you can see there's lots of community created effects, animations, different things. There was even like weather, different things like that on here. Now, while it's doing that update, before we can get to some of the really fun demos, like these legs, they're just plastic. This is mostly just a plastic construction. It feels pretty solid though, other than those legs. Like I wouldn't be bending those. I wouldn't be giving this to a kid saying, hey, you can move the leg. No, you can't. They're static, and those would probably break if you're really ranked on them. But other than that, the physical construction of this is really, really good. It's obviously incredibly unique. There is nothing like this out there. I love that I can see the electronics on the inside. Just some of the board, and then they integrated those LEDs, and then it's like an LED strip. And then the sides have an LED strip too, with all kinds of different colors on them. This thing's wild. This is one of the most interesting products I've unboxed in a very long time. That's because not only is it remarkably interesting to look at from every angle with its steampunk feel and its high-tech look and feel, but it also hits the mark with its features. You can draw in any design you'd like, and you can create either static pictures or little animations if you'd like. Then you can display them on one of the 5 screens. You can manage all kinds of device settings, which allow you to deal with brightness, change it to a night mode that drops that brightness at a certain time, and you can shut it down and manage a number of other basic features. But then you have all these different features, from setting and managing alarms, creating celebration days like birthdays where you have custom displays. You can do a countdown or a stopwatch, and you can even count a competition on a scoreboard. If you connect with friends in the Divoom app, you can chat, and there is of course a noise meter. But then you can build these customized displays. There are certain displays that stretch across all 5 screens to display something like a big clock face. Or you can build panels with 5 individual displays on them. So each smaller display becomes its own display, and you can display whatever you want on it. That's a lot of displaying. But once you've built a 5 display setup, you can add more, and then tapping the mode button on the top of the whole device moves it along between your different sets of screens. And you can add up to 5 sets of 5 displays, or you can just have a couple, and there are all kinds of specialized screens that you can put on here. Everything from tickers for different leagues to stocks to weather, and even your social media stats, as well as recent updates. And I'm sure I'm only scratching the surface here, because other creators in the past have shown me how this Divoom platform can be used with more of their products to connect to other APIs. So I'm just getting started with this one in terms of its features. And that's before I talk about all the custom lighting modes that let you decide whether you want the surround lights on the side or just the backlights or both. And there are 12 different color cycle modes that you can roll through just by tapping the light button. It connects to your home's Wi-Fi, and it's been stable. And you can use the Divoom app to manage all of this, but after a little bit, you're probably just gonna leave it with all the information you know and love on it. So I absolutely love this, and I love that I have an upgrade on that Pixu 64 that I got last year from the same company. These guys keep knocking it out of the park, and although you won't be able to stand far back from this and read all the information on it, it is an absolutely amazing bedside clock or work desk panel. Let's get this bad boy opened up. This one is from Lutron, and I actually got it for a really specific reason. I've got a video coming up that's really all about smart lighting in apartments and things like that. So, look at that. I got me a nice little card here from Leah. And what we have is called the Lamp Dimmer Kit with the bridge. Now, what's so interesting about this is you'll plug your lamp into it and then you can dim it. Now, let me get out the big component here. We get within this pack, it looks like the smart dimmer, or the smart bridge, sorry. Now, this is the Lutron bridge, okay? And what's really great about this, number one, it's a wired in thing. And then thereafter, to communicate with their other devices, they're not using your Wi-Fi. This also has a HomeKit code on it, which is really important for a lot of you. So that means HomeKit. Now this is your dimmer, and it's a dimmer switch, it's plug-in, and so your lamps are gonna go in the side here. It looks like we've got 2 plug-ins in the sides, and then we've got dimmer switches that we can control on here. We've got an on and an off button, and I got 2 of these in the pack. Plus, within this package, and I don't even know the pricing on this, but I mean, this is pretty deluxe. You've got 2 Pico remotes that would allow you could pair it with one of them or either of them, and then you can place those remotes somewhere else in your home and control it. I really love this idea, especially for smart apartments. These are the Enbrighten color-changing landscape lights. This is a really interesting set, and I've had a couple of products from these guys in the past, and it's pretty high quality stuff. They're strong, they're durable, or at least in general. Holy smokes! Ooh, they are a little heavy because of that. Now these are full RGB, they're color changing lights. The other thing that surprised me so much is this is a burial grade cabling system. So if you wanted to, you could get these underneath and really make this a clean look. Now looking at one of these, let's call it a puck, a light puck, if you will. They're very simple. There's one cable going to each of them, And they're going to allow you to actually drive a stake, and they've given you a whole bunch of different stakes here in order to put them into the ground. Now, there's a couple of spots where these are going to be able to twist onto those stakes, and you know, just from an overall standpoint, this is pretty good quality. There's not a lot of gaps here. I'm not seeing any gaps as I look around here. You don't want gaps because that's where water's going to get in, right? Now on the box, they're saying, okay, there's 10 feet of distance between each of these, but it's customizable how far that distance is going to be for you, okay? So this is obviously the end one. I've only got one connector going into it, but as we get to the second one, it's got two sides to it. Now let's say you didn't want to mount these into the ground, or you had to mount them like onto a wall or onto some kind of surface. I'm actually giving you a mounting template. I like this a lot because it kind of opens up some different options with these lights. The other thing I really like, and this happened with my cafe patio lights, there's a little button on here. This is a giant transformer, okay? So for my patio lights, I was able to mount that against the railing on my patio, and honestly, it stayed there. It's been perfect since. You've also got these two kinds of hooks. So you've got a couple of options now. That's a little bit of an improvement. Press the power button 6 times. On the 6th press, hold the button for 5 seconds. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5. That looks ready for setup. Would I like to name my device and add a custom image? No, I'm happy. Now here's the really fun thing with Enbrighten's lights, and I love a lot of their system for control. They've made it worth it to use their app. Now you're noticing I'm in a mode, okay, well, I can go to rainbow, right? Now it's just in that rainbow mode. Here's Mardi Gras, okay, here's spring, and in a lot of cases, these will move. So here's blink, okay? There's lots of dynamic effects. Plus, there's a new button, other side, right here. There's a new button right here that allows us to create our own, and you can use a number of different effects. So they're down at the bottom right here. Those effects can be sped up or slowed down. You see how fast it's going right now. This is on the twinkle one, and I can add 3 different colors for it to go through. This is the piece that I really like about their control interface. Now this is light bulb 12, and I went into the My Lights section, okay? And as soon as I hit that number 12, I just tapped on it. You can see it, oh, sorry. Ooh, almost dropped the phone. You can see number 12, and that has turned off. As with everything that comes from these folks, the physical quality is high and the materials being used are really good. But one thing that caught me off guard with this set is that you cannot drag them on concrete whatsoever. That's honestly my own fault. I don't know what I was thinking, but I did scrape up a couple that way. After that, I opened them up on grass. Everything was fine, and they don't scratch or break or show anything on any other surface. Truly, that hasn't changed how they look in my front garden bed unless someone is standing right in front of them and staring. And that has happened since I installed these because people want to look. Now with them, I really love that the cables are all burial grade and that the extension cord is very long. This makes installation really clean, and it gives you a lot of different locations you can put them, even when you have a single plug outside like I do. Something else that helps is the fact that these can be driven into the ground with the stakes that you're given, or you can mount these on walls and other surfaces with just the right size screw. So these could even be a replacement for lighting around your eaves. Now, unless you're blind or you've been blinded by the brightness of these lights, then you'll notice the Govee rope light is sitting next to them. And I thought the Govee product would overpower this one, but actually things are pretty balanced between the two. You don't have as many effects as Govee has with theirs, but This style of light, I think most of the time you're going to be using a single color or a color temperature to light the way for people approaching your home, not necessarily all those effects. Now you can do that with an outdoor motion sensor in either Samsung SmartThings or Amazon, and while you could do it with Google Home, I'm not going to suggest that. Amazon is the best to use with this product because you do get access to those fancier scenes within their routines, whereas SmartThings, you just get a simple on-off control. But the fact is, you're probably just going to put these on a schedule for lighting at night. And between the physical construction, the simple control options, and the way these look in my front yard, I'm really happy with how everything looks. It's truly an automation household, and while I've shown you a lot of those crazier looks to display the power of these, they can appear just like other landscape lighting with that automation touch. All right, here we go. Now this is a heavy box. I'm actually really surprised with the Govee RGBIC WW cylinder floor lamp. Now all those RGBIC, I'll explain what that means as we go, but this is a floor lamp from Govee. We saw this one actually at CES this year as kind of the first reveal of that. So I'm excited to actually get one of these in my place, show you what it's all about. All right, we get our little Join Govee home card. Of course, we get a user manual, power adapter, very standard for these guys, although this one feels a little nicer than some of the previous adapters. Now this has a controller component on it, really interesting. Okay, so we've got a button, it looks like a lighting indicator, but then look at that. That is very different. We've got 3 pieces of the actual lamp pole here, and they're all attached by the cable. So the cable's already run through all of this. I got my nunchucks here. And this is very standard. You know, when I get down to the power cable here, you're just going straight into the adapter. So it's pretty standard stuff. This isn't like, it's not brushed. It's very smooth. It might have some nicks over time. I'm not making one as I do this, and I'm not scratching it. So it's a good coating there. And our lamp itself. Now I would assume that there's an LED strip in here because obviously that's what Govee's good at. Oh, that's heavy. Oh, we're sticking. And there's the base. Now this is heavy. This is serious. But what I do notice is your cable is going through the middle there. So that's really nice to see. That means you can hide things fairly well. Totally breaking rules here, for sure. For sure. But I want to show you guys. Has this got a twist on? Yeah, it twists on. Okay. That looks nice. I have to do 3 more threads, and then this is done. There's a lightsaber behind me. Just to give you an idea, that is 7% brightness. Orange. It's perfect on this side. I know sometimes the color balance isn't quite right in here. Yellow, perfect. Green, blue. It's as I'm hitting these things too. So the response is really quick because Govee uses Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. When you're within range, you can control it through the app. Now, you can move through all the different RGB colors, really great. But the thing you always want with Govee are these different scenes. It's moving along, look at that. I mean, that's incredible. And this is what you get with every Govee light. I'm really loving their lighting products, guys. In case you haven't noticed, they work with Amazon, they work with Google. With Amazon, you get all of the access to their scenes. So all these different effects you get access to. So you can ask Amazon, okay, show me, you know, or put this in the Govee fire scene. You can use it in routines that way too. Now, in terms of SmartThings and HomeKit users, right now you're not going to have an option for this specifically, but If you watch our smart LED strip comparison video, you'll see that Govee's moving in the way of Matter, and then you do get some options there. Smart home aficionados like most of you will be wondering about automation options. Well, Govee's lamp features a scheduling function in their app, automation options that coordinate with other Govee products like their smart home sensors and other lights, and this specific version of the product can be used with Govee's API for deeper integration and LAN-based local smart home control. On top of that, this product works with Amazon and Google's voice assistant and their smart home apps. And with Amazon's voice assistant, within their routines feature, you can also access those, which means you can have a simple motion sensor turn on this lamp to any effect you'd like. This is the first smart lamp I'll be keeping long-term in my home, and I'm excited to use it not just for its smart features, but also for basic lighting features. This one's not just a pretty lamp with fancy effects, although it is that. It's a useful lamp with a modern look that's well designed and could fit a lot of homes. This one's a total buy from me, so check out the links below to pick up one of these and start building out your Govee smart lighting system, because it just gets better and better every launch. All the smart home hubs that are in the next segment are capable, and honestly, they're pretty impressive. But I would say that all of these companies did something that is remarkable beyond the hub. They brought out a hub in the year when the entire industry was telling you you didn't need a hub anymore. That is, of course, because the industry was telling you that Matter had arrived and the end of the smart home hub was here. That's definitely not the case, but these companies released these hubs in this environment successfully. They did it in a way that proved their worthiness, and I think all of these have places in modern smart homes. Maybe not together, because most of them you probably have to choose between. But the modern smart home hubs that are in this video today, they're kind of like someone who's traveled the world. They speak so many languages, or in the case of a smart home hub, they have so many radios. They have platforms that are stable and have been built over many years. So to continue my analogy, they're well traveled. And that's how I feel about all of these. They're now companies that have grown up in the smart home industry. They know what it's all about to release something, support it, and to continually improve it. So enjoy our best smart home hubs of 2023. First things first, I have peanuts. We got the SwitchBot Hub 2. Now this is the newest hub from SwitchBot, looks quite different from their other hubs, and it's a Matter compatible hub. Now most SwitchBot products use Bluetooth, and so this is going to bridge that gap over to Matter with all of SwitchBot's products. But it's gonna take a little while, so don't go into this one, don't go buying this one expecting day one everything you have is going to become Matter compatible. But I think what's really important with this new hub from SwitchBot is that it's going to make pretty much everything in their lineup HomeKit compatible as that Matter compatibility comes. Here's what you get in the box. You get a USB cable, USB-A to USB-C. You get a power adapter, obviously USB-A. Then you get some help card if you need any help, and a user manual. Plus you get a couple of 3M stickers, and then you get the hub itself. Now I just wanted to give you a couple of comparisons for size and for differences. So here's the SwitchBot Hub Mini that most of you will have. Really, it's the same size of device, just with that display there. And even with the Meter 2 here, you can see it's basically the same size. So SwitchBot's getting very consistent with their designs. This does feel a little nicer. It looks a little more refined, I think, because SwitchBot's expecting more people to have this out in their home versus something like this little mini hub. Now the hub actually flips out a little bit, and that's because it's a stand. It can actually sit like this, and the USB-C port is on the inside there. So we're all plugged in. This is the temperature and humidity sensor. You can see the little holes in that. It's got some sticky tape to make sure you can kind of get that mounted and keep it sitting flush. And then on top of that, right away, you're seeing the humidity on here, plus the temperature. The other thing is, I'm pretty sure these two buttons at the bottom can be changed into scenes or executing scenes in SwitchBot's app, which means it's not just on off for this display. Maybe you could continue to do that, but you can control other SwitchBot devices a lot like their remote, which, you know, that's actually a pretty powerful little device because you can control things like your curtains and your blinds and the SwitchBot bot. This really becomes the controller that you're going to want from SwitchBot now. The other thing that's kind of special with any of SwitchBot's hubs is that they have an IR controller built into them. You've got IR on your remotes around your home. You can control your television. If this is sitting looking towards your television, you're going to be able to control that. And I'm excited to get that Matter support. The first thing that's going to come with Matter support here is SwitchBot's Curtain, and then they're going to quickly roll it out to lots of their other products over the year. The one thing that a lot of you are probably going to ask is this a Matter over Thread bridge? That answer is no, but it is Matter bridge for all of SwitchBot's products. SwitchBot's Hub 2 is a natural next step for this company, and I'm excited to see how this progresses because this hub is going to gain new features, and the existing ones are great already. It's the best hub from them, period, and yet it's much more than a hub. There are 3 sensors that you can automate with, an IR blaster with double the range of the mini hub, 2 buttons on this device that can run SwitchBot scenes, and an LED display that's pretty configurable. But it's not just those things that make this great. There are a lot of details that have been put into this device. The IR blaster is way better than anything they've done before. It can reach really far, and it doesn't seem to matter which way I face the hub because it has a number of IR emitters. The 3 sensors are accurate because they've been placed in the right location, with the temperature and humidity being on the cable and the illumination being a part of the physical hub. The 2 buttons on the screen work really well to execute actions, and I like that I can turn off the sound so I don't have to hear the loud beep. The LED screen isn't perfect, although it does look really nice most of the time. It doesn't fully turn off even if your room is really dark. Now, it does darken quite a bit, but I wish I could schedule that or automate that part of the device. But let's get to the big thing. The big point of the Hub 2 is that it's a Matter bridge. It's currently a beta feature, but it was easy to connect my blind tilt and curtains with Apple HomeKit using it. Sadly, you can't bring in other SwitchBot products into Matter yet, but we know the bot and lock will be added to the bridge feature. Although there's a maximum of 6 devices you can add to the hub as a Matter bridge, that doesn't stop you from adding other products to the hub for basic control. And it does sound like we might get up to 8 devices for that bridge. Also, you can group blinds or curtains together in order to get more devices into that bridge. There's one thing that's sad about the Hub 2 today. It's because Google, Amazon, and SmartThings still aren't ready for Matter bridges. But that'll come soon, and you can already integrate with those systems, so it doesn't matter. And yes, that was a pun. This is the Hubitat Elevation C8. Here's what you get in the box. You get a little QR code to get you started. You get a power adapter. It's just a USB-A, and then you have a USB-A to USB-C connector that will go into the hub itself. Now the hub has a couple of pins on it, you can see there, and that's because we have some external radios on this one. The other thing you're gonna get is an Ethernet cable because this is a hub that you do wire in. Right there you can see the Ethernet cable, and right there you can see the power. This is going to be a Matter and a Thread, a Matter over Thread hub. The Z-Wave specification on Hubitat C8 is Z-Wave Series 800, and I think that's the first hub I've ever heard with that on it. Why that's so important is because that includes Z-Wave long range. Now, there's no products out there today that are gonna work with Z-Wave long range, or at least I don't know any, but somebody had to take the leap, and that specification I think actually could be the saving grace of Z-Wave products in general, because that's gonna bring it up to a range a lot like LoRa or what Yolink uses in their hub and their products. It's alive. Let me get this out of the way. Oh yeah. So I've plugged in everything I can, and it's time to get this set up and working. I actually get to use their migration tool, which allows you to transfer very quickly from the C5 to the C8. I did want to show the difference between these hubs. Now this is my C5 and this is the C8. And physically, there's really no difference in dimensions, but obviously with these antennas, you're gonna be able to deploy them in a few different angles, but that will change how you can store these. I don't think that's gonna affect a lot of people, but I wanted to show you because unfortunately size does matter. Hubitat C8 Hub is the pinnacle of what this company has done so far. It enters a fairly mature automation platform with great Zigbee and Z-Wave compatibility. It also connects with most platforms you'll want it to connect to, and it controls all of the connected devices locally. It has HomeKit compatibility through a beta, Google, Amazon, Sonos, Hue, and many more integrations that you can use to do all kinds of things. Hubitat allows the creation of virtual devices that are so important to make deep automations across systems, and it's all really easy to do everything through the apps page in the Hubitat portal. The C8 will add Matter and Thread later this year, but one thing I did really enjoy was migrating an older hub to this new one. It was as simple as creating a backup of the old hub and restoring that on the new hub. But the most important thing about Hubitat is something that hasn't changed with this new version of their hub. It still has the same automation engine behind it, which is so powerful and yet fairly easy to use to create very complex automations. It's this system that drives all of the worth into Hubitat's offering, and the C8 is really just capitalizing on the next evolution of the smart home. This is a hub that's going to join my list of recommended hubs going forward. And while the dashboard feature is way behind the rest of the industry and the app still needs huge improvements, this hub is still one of the best, and is especially so for the price you will spend building your smart home with it. This says Seed Studio. And if you already know, then you're excited. Now, Home Assistant Green, the important piece here is that it's essentially a pre-packaged Home Assistant Smart Home Hub. I'm looking forward to this one. It seems to have just about everything it needs, but I did pick up the Home Assistant Sky Connect. Now, this is gonna give me most of my radios, but we're gonna discover what else I might have needed with this. I get a little card telling me how to get started. Pretty simple. Here's some warranty and safety information. This looks like, and it does say that it's a power supply. A little jiggly for a power supply. Now this is gonna be reminiscent if you saw Home Assistant Yellow, which I never purchased. That was one you had to back, kind of early backing, and I wasn't sold after Home Assistant Blue crapped out on me. A number of ports on the back. 2 USB ports, they're both USB-A. This has no Wi-Fi connectivity on it, and that's actually, they state it. We don't believe that you should have Wi-Fi connectivity on a hub, which I happen to agree with generally. So there you go. I think this is all you need to start off with Home Assistant, and I believe it's going to be very simple to set this up at this point. Now, I've plugged in everything I had in both boxes, and I've got my power adapter right here. It's all connected in. I got my USB extension cable that I got with my Sky Connect, and that is it. Like this is Sky Connect in a nutshell. I mean, that's smaller than most nutshells. You know, I kind of said, oh, there's probably some people who are pretty excited. And that's because I've kind of been a little bit standoffish with this platform. Not because I don't like what they're doing, not because I don't like the idea of Home Assistant, but because, well, quite frankly, it cost me $500 to get Home Assistant Blue, to get it up to Canada, and then it broke on me. and nobody cared, nobody helped, nobody anything, and I didn't freak out. I didn't yell at anyone. I didn't say anything bad about the platform, but quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, if that's the hardware experience, you're not ready for me to tell my audience, you guys who watch this show, you're not ready as a platform. But here I am, I'm ready to try this one again. I love the look. I love the way that this whole hardware package has come to me. This is very professional. This is right up there as far as I'm concerned, hardware-wise, specification-wise. It's right up there with every other hub, and I would say it's probably a little better hardware-wise. Be neat to open that up. You know, when I do stuff like this, I'm sure there's people who just get so angry. I didn't do this with Home Assistant Blue, by the way. And there's the big reveal. Oh, okay. So just in case you wondered, what was inside of this thing? Ready? There you go. There's the board. And you know, I gotta say, it's looking pretty clean, pretty nice. Obviously I can't see a lot of the underside. There's a few chips on the underside. Okay, I'm sure I'm in trouble with a bunch of people who are gonna tell me I shouldn't do that. But I'll tell you, there's a couple things I noticed. There's a slot for a battery right up here. See that? So there you go. Now I gotta put this thing back together. I gotta set it up, get it working in my home, and I'll tell you just how easy it was to get Home Assistant Green working with everything in my home. Okay, all of you Home Assistant fanatics, it's time for some reality. Home Assistant isn't perfect. It's okay that I said that. You don't have to defend HA like I'm hurting your firstborn child, should you ever get out of mom's basement and have one. Home Assistant Green is 100% the right way to start out with Home Assistant. It's easy to set up, and I had it ready and working in just minutes. I had to do really nothing with the Sky Connect dongle, and I've been able to bring in all kinds of products from my home that were found automatically. I could then create basic and even intermediate automations with the basic system. I can create user accounts easily, and I can even start to create some basic dashboards. Plus I get the main dashboard, and honestly, that's as much as many smart home systems give you today. In fact, I would say this is as easy and effective as most experiences are in the smart home space now. But things become much more difficult as soon as you get to this point. And don't worry, I'm going to show you some examples because I know that I have to defend against the infinite amount of harpies that will show up to attack me when I say that their baby at this system isn't perfect. Now there are a number of bugs in the Home Assistant app for Android. Within minutes of working within the app, I had found 4. Little bugs, nothing to write home about, but enough to annoy me. And something that I'm not experiencing in other smart home apps today. Navigation isn't easy in the app either, and everything has been packed into a settings menu that's loaded with more than any other app I've seen. My TP-Link power bars, for example, came in with 5 different entities per plug. It's nice to have all that information, but why are they all separated on my dashboard? And why did they come in with the weirdest names imaginable? Thereby leaving me a job to take on to rename and adjust everything. Now, why is my Sky Connect dongle requiring me to use an experimental feature to use Thread and Zigbee at the same time? Why isn't that ready now? How am I to use Thread today? And why is the Matter integration still a beta? There are just lots of questions in a system that's supposedly the best. And that's because it's on you, the user, to figure it all out.
I'm not worried about it! I'm not worried about any of this!
The good news is there's a huge community and there's lots of help available. Just don't ask what's considered a stupid question in any of the forums because keyboard warriors will rip your guts out. Now, when I, someone who has worked with smart home systems for my entire adult life, went forward to try and produce more sophisticated automations or to integrate more products than had been automatically found by Home Assistant, I ran into more difficulty than the average person is going to be able or want to deal with. I found myself needing IP addresses, which isn't the worst, and I think most people could figure that out. But then I found myself needing hosts, host names, user accounts, API keys, understanding things like SSL security, or just plain old finding an integration like with Nanoleaf that requires me to use 2 different ways to bring in those products. So not only could I not bring in Nanoleaf if I didn't have HomeKit running and some sort of Apple product in order to maintain that, but I was now having to manage Nanoleaf with 2 separate integrations. Then when I went to create more sophisticated automations, I found some helpful tools like the Blueprint tool. This meant I could go and see posts by other users and then just hopefully install their blueprint and get it working. But even within that, I was finding myself on FAQ pages that were complex and trying to explain programming language. It caused me to have to rethink using the integration or just spending time figuring out what that integration could actually do. It's just so much to do and so much to learn, and that's because, again, this is a system that is on you to build and to maintain. And whenever you don't want to build or maintain something, there's now a subscription for it. You can get the cloud service from Nabu Casa, and that will help you access Home Assistant from outside of your home and help you configure a voice assistant. So it's now become a system that you have to pay for the shortcuts, and then it's still on you to manage all of this. For me, the trade-off is just not worth it, but I understand how people get pulled in by this system. It's because they can literally do anything they want with it. When you look at the list of integrations and you look at the blueprints that are already built by the community, the bones are here for doing incredible things in your home. And I've seen the results from people who are neck deep in this system. The dashboards are something that I think are ahead of the rest of the industry. And there are components of Home Assistant that are well ahead of the rest of the industry. But now the words private and local are available in other systems. You've seen that here today. Executing automations quickly and effectively and having complex automations, those are available in other systems today. The rest of the world is catching up, and Home Assistant now needs to look at their fantastic system and understand that most of the world doesn't even know what a trigger is, let alone what an entity could mean or what a host name is. They need to round out the offering and make it accessible for the average person. It's a tough road, and I hope they do it, because very honestly, this is an incredible hub for someone who's willing to take the time and effort necessary to make their home incredible. It's just not for me, at least not yet. Now, honestly, at the end of that review of Home Assistant Green, I was pretty rough on the platform, and I would say that comes from a place of warning more than a place of dislike or hatred. You know, when I use Home Assistant in my home, I'm just fine, which by the way, I'm doing it now alongside both Hubitat and Homey Pro. I'm evaluating all of those platforms side by side, so I'm not against Home Assistant personally. I'm against the idea of spending my whole life managing a smart home. I came from this industrial automation background, and I moved over to this after a stop in electrical engineering. And when I tell you that I could program most of an industrial facility, like a huge one, with 30 tanks and pumps and motors and valves and all kinds of things, I could do that in almost an afternoon. So when I tell you that I could program most of one of those facilities in an afternoon because of standardization, because the programming language isn't that complex, that I'm telling you, that's what you should be able to do in your home, and I won't accept any less. And we have people out there who are spending years building up their smart home, working on the weekends in order to get these little projects done. I see it on Twitter or X all the time. You get these people that are like, hey, what project are you doing this weekend? That doesn't make sense to me. You have to plan your weekend to have a home automation project to work on Home Assistant? If you're not automating your life for a time savings, I kind of personally think you're doing it wrong. Anything else is just showing off for the sake of showing off. And I think that's one of the 7 deadly sins, if I'm not mistaken. So quit being vain. I'm just kidding, okay? I'll get off my high horse. I'm totally kidding. The actual point of what I was trying to say is that you should be saving time with your smart home. My warnings about Home Assistant are to those of you who don't know what it's like to get into that system. So you don't go into it thinking that it's some easy thing that'll only take you a few hours. That's a weekend project for many weekends, for maybe many years. Let's move on to the world of home security. You've already seen a few things in this video. Now I'm going to show you a number of cameras and video doorbells that I think really stood out in a special way this year. First one's going to feel a little controversial to many people, and even as I reviewed it, I said it's probably not worth the dollars. And yet, here it is on the list, right? It's things like this that after you spend a little time with them, you understand that the power of the big feature is truly a huge feature. It's truly a game changer. And so let's go through home security cameras, starting with Ring. Today I'm excited to show you the brand new Stick-Up Cam Pro. This is the battery version, and I just took it out of the box. I pulled the battery tab, and this is a large camera. Now, the Stick-Up Cams have always been that standard piece, or at least since they were released, they were kind of that standard piece to Ring's lineup. Now, you can actually twist off this base, and in the future, I'm thinking there will be some additional options for bases like pan tilt mounts, things like that. You get the standard battery in here. This is what's in all Ring products as far as I've seen, at least in the last few years, and you have a little reset button in there. You also have a full power adapter. It's USB-C, which is nice to see, and then of course we have the mount itself. Physical construction wise, this is a well sealed camera. Like, there is no concerns that I have in terms of water, except maybe that power port. Now, this is not an inexpensive camera, and you know, it's 1080p, so a lot of people are going to balk at that. Plus, they're going to balk at the fact that you have to have a subscription, more or less, with this product. Now, you get a micro USB cable, which is a little weird because you got that USB-C port on the back here. But that's because the batteries actually have their own micro USB port on them for charging them directly. Now, there are a few features here that turn this into the Pro version of the Stick-Up Cam. The first is their aerial monitoring. So they call this the bird's eye view, where you're able to see this top-down look at your property and how people are approaching it. And then this 3D motion detection method. So you're able to pinpoint exactly in your property where you want that motion detection to start, and it's a little more accurate than you're going to find most just basic PIR sensors. Now, I already heard the speaker. The speaker sounds great. I'm going to test out the microphone here in a little bit, but they have noise canceling on these, and they actually sound really good. If you've used any Ring products, this is a huge benefit of their products as well. Amazon's new camera is not a cheap one, and that means it has a lot to live up to. For me, there's one way that this camera has become undeniable, and one way that this camera will let people down. Now, Ring hits all the basics naturally today. The physical construction's fantastic, the mounting options are great, and I love that I was able to very easily mount this on the side of my home. I had very few restrictions for how this could be used, and so it covers exactly what I want it to. It's a very wide field of view, and overall the footage looks great. Amazon's instructions in the Ring app, plus the fact that they give you all the hardware necessary to mount this, makes the installation and setup process a stupid level of easy. But once you set up the new bird's eye view, which is only available on a few Ring products today, you will never want to go back. This is the feature that makes it an undeniable success, and when combined with the pre-roll option that records a little bit of footage in a lower resolution just before the event starts, Amazon has created, and I don't say this lightly, the perfect notification system. Cue the gasps. Now what I mean by that is I have never received a notification that wasn't from someone physically on my property. The notifications have never lied, and I am only recording the events that I need. Then I'm getting a couple of seconds before the event starts with that pre-roll feature so I can see the intention of the person and their path. And that's where the bird's eye view comes in and tells you where they are on the property and the path they're taking. Plus, using that feature keeps me getting the notifications that I need, and it eliminates all the ones that I don't. I'm not getting a motion notification based on a car being in the street, nor am I getting a notification from someone walking by my home off my property. I'm only getting the detections I need, so I actually trust this camera. I can use it with Amazon's routines with their voice assistant to bring up the feed on their smart displays and the Fire TVs when someone is detected, and they are happening fast enough that it's actually useful. That's an extremely rare experience today. So from this notification and recording standpoint and the app, everything's great. But the other side of this is that it's a very expensive camera, and the footage is still not at a level even with the price tag. Don't get me wrong, in good light the footage is perfect, and I can even zoom in on people at the very edge of my property and still get a good understanding of what they look like. But it's that low light condition or nighttime conditions that I still don't think it's quite there for Ring. I think they just need to work on this as part of their overall camera package, because it's something we've seen on lots of their cameras. So if you already have a Ring stick-up cam and you don't like the notifications you're getting today, this is a definite upgrade. And I do think it's worth it in that situation. I also think it's worth it for folks who use Amazon Echo Shows, Fire TVs, and other products like that. It's just, you gotta watch that nighttime vision is not perfect. Let's get into the Wyze Pan V3. Now this is gonna have all of the upgrades for the Wyze system in it. And honestly, I was really impressed with the V2 last year. It was very tall, it was a little bit overbearing in terms of a design, but with the way this one looks and some of the things I've already seen Wyze customers doing in terms of mounting and how they're placing these cameras, you know, I can see this one really taking off. Now, it fully pans, and what I mean by that is in a lot of cases, you know, companies say, okay, it's a full pan and tilt camera. No. This thing is 180 degrees. That would be tilt. And then it's 360 degrees pan. That's what you call that. Kind of losing my words today, but here's what you get in the box. Here's the eye-backed sticker. I got a lot of those. I don't think I've ever put them anywhere. I don't know what that is. It looks like a scary sticker. Oh, I get it, because there's always bugs on your cameras. They're always attracted to the IR lighting at night, so I guess you could pretend that that's there. That's kind of fun. You know, Wyze kind of making fun of themselves. That's fun. Got a quick start guide, and we've got the camera itself. That is big. You get a mounting bracket for the pan cam here, and then you have some basic hardware, but then you're getting this screw here. It's going to go into the back of the mounting hardware, and then that goes on the bottom. So this is actually how you're going to mount this device. Then you get an adapter. This adapter, I think, is a little heftier than your average one, a little bit than your average Wyze cam for like these other ones. And then you have a bit of a different connector here for the micro USB into the camera itself. Ooh, which is on the bottom. Now let's get into this camera because it's such a different design. But first, we need the sounds of tech. So here's some of the first tilts that you can see. See, I got my words right. You can see it's a full 180, like that is straight down, and we can go straight up. Now it's just making it by the base. It's quite interesting how close they put that. And what I can tell you is this has a privacy mode, and when you hit that privacy mode, it swings down and it sits like that. Now the speaker on the back is very similar to the Pan Cam V2, and we have the SD card and the setup button on the bottom here. There's this little lever basically or actuation lever is what I'll call it, that's gonna translate from down here in the base to those movements in your camera. Now in order to turn though, that's happening down here in the base. So that's a bit of an interesting device. Like we have a couple of different ways that it appears that this camera is moving. So I'm really interested. Now, this is supposed to be quieter than the Pan Cam V2. And honestly, I didn't hear anything out of that one, so this will be really cool to test. Something that a couple of you might be missing, you know, even on this OG here, it's got that little spotlight. This one doesn't have the spotlight, so it's not intended to do that. But I think the point of this is that you're going to be able to monitor everything around your home or everything around your yard, and it's going to be very quiet and has good specs on the camera. In terms of like the lens and the specifications here on this camera, you're gonna find this to be one of the best in the lineup. You're gonna put it on par with a lot of the improvements they've been making over the years with like the V3 here. The only difference being you don't see that spotlight on this. That's probably the biggest difference you're gonna notice. The other thing, you know, the color night vision, it's come so far. All of their image processing, it's come so far. Their detection of people and different objects, it's come a long way. So this is the pinnacle of what Wyze is. It's ingenious design, very different, and you know what? It's not that expensive. So really excited to test this one out. Let's go. I reviewed the V2 version of this camera and it was greatly improved then. This one is another level of improvement, and although the resolution hasn't changed, nor has the frame rate or really some of those basic specifications, what has improved is tracking, and that is the most important component of this camera. It still suffers from a backlighting issue that makes things like my hand or part of my face disappear when there's a strong light source behind me, but otherwise the footage looks great in my home, and it does really well all the way out to a depth of about 20 feet before I notice any real degradation. The tracking is nearly flawless in my home, and it's configurable with different pan speeds being available. So if you're finding that it's moving a little too fast, then you can slow it down, or you can speed it up if you're losing people. But in general, it doesn't matter what speed I put it in, as it will continue to track me moving through the space, no matter how crazy I get. I think the mount is good, and I've seen a lot of people purchasing aftermarket mounts and aftermarket cables, and the only thing to think about with this one is that the cable they made at Wyze has a specific end to it, so make sure whatever you're buying fits completely in that compartment. You also want to be very careful with the length of that cable, because this camera is very sensitive to its power requirements. Otherwise, the Pan Cam V3 is exactly what this series of cameras needed, and I'm pretty sure that Wyze will be working on a Pro version that gives us the 2K resolution, because this is so good as a tracking camera. Double wrapping, you know, you love it when you get a bag, and then, I mean, this tape. This tape is the bane of my existence. Here is the Smart Video Doorbell G4 from Aqara. Now this is a HomeKit compatible, HomeKit secure video compatible video doorbell from Aqara. It has its own chime. This is a super exciting product this year. Here's what you get with the G4. Number one, a user manual. Number two, you get a couple of sets of mounting hardware, some really tiny screws, and then kind of your proper mounting hardware. You get an angle mount for the whole thing, which is pretty normal to get with these kinds of devices. You get a USB cable, so there's USB-A to USB-C, and then you get a tiny little screwdriver. Then you get a chime. It has a USB-C port, a HomeKit code and a micro SD card slot. That's up to, I think, 512 gigabytes of storage space that you can put there. And then we have the big old camera video doorbell itself. That is a large button. Let's listen. I don't know, that's a different one. It's kind of fun. It's really fun. I'm really enjoying this. Now my phone's actually connecting to this.
Wi-Fi connecting. Please wait.
Device connected to the network. Let's have a look. Are we done yet?
The account is bound successfully. Welcome aboard.
So fast. Honestly, that's one of the best things about Aqara. That was so fast how it connected everything together. So on the front here, right up at the top, you can see there's a little microphone port. And then the next thing down from that is actually an illumination sensor. So this has the ability to tell you how bright it is outside and make adjustments, obviously, on that. Then we have the lens, which, you know, that's pretty obvious. And there are night vision IR lights on this around here. Plus, this little bump is a motion or a PIR sensor. So you have all of that just on the front. Now, this is the push button. We've heard that. And there is, I think, an illumination ring that goes around that. So the presser is going to get a visual indication of that. Now, in order to take the back plate off, I have to unscrew that. And that's a great little security feature. Not something I've seen other makers do, especially not kind of hiding it in a little compartment here. So I'm just gonna take that off. Now here's how it looks inside this video doorbell. And probably the first thing you're gonna notice is we got a few spots for batteries here. Now this can be wired in, or it's a high compatibility device, and you can see the two screws there for your existing wires where your doorbell is. But these 6 batteries here, that is what's going to make it compatible with Apple HomeKit and HomeKit Secure Video. Those, you have to have a lot of power to be able to provide the frames per second that's necessary for that. And that's actually something that has caught a lot of video doorbell makers. So I've set up this device. It took seconds to get this installed. And this isn't even powered on, and yet I'm still set up in the app. So I got a little bit to figure out there, but this little button actually can factory reset the device. You can press it like 10 times, it fully factory resets it, and then you can turn on or off the alarm bell sound just by a single press. You're still gonna need this no matter what, but you can turn it off as a chime if it's not fitting with the rest of your home. Lots of us use smart speakers and the like for that. The Aqara G4 is the Automator's video doorbell. It joins a massive series of Aqara products and integrations that makes it completely unique versus competitors. The automation options in the Aqara app are massive, and they are useful too. You can start Amazon and Google routines with a doorbell press, and the doorbell works with HomeKit speakers. It'll gain Matter compatibility when doorbells are added to that specification too, so its integration features are amazing and gonna get better. The footage looks good in the daytime and in good light in the evenings. At nighttime, it's a little bit difficult to make out faces, but this is the case with most video doorbells on the market today, so it's in good company. But it's not that useful for identifying people at night. The good news is you can use all of those great automation features to make sure that your porch is lit up before someone comes up to your home, because this does recognition of motion through a PIR sensor on board. That sensor catches people 15 to 20 feet away consistently and would allow you to automate this night vision issue away. I found the motion recognition to be too sensitive in a lot of cases, and I had to use the very comprehensive settings on the G4 to eliminate a lot of inaccurate notifications from things like steam coming off of my home. After a bit of playing, I was able to get this right for my situation, and I think everyone will be able to do that too.
Plus the facial recognition is very good, and with those automation options being so comprehensive, you can do things like have specialized greetings per recognized face. Plus you can have a different audio recording play out of the chime when someone you know walks up to the home. The device can be wired in to use the chime in your home, or you can use a very loud chime that they've included with the device. Plus you can use all of the different smart speakers from Apple, Google, and Amazon as a chime in your home, and through Amazon Smart Displays, you can actually answer the door and communicate through those as well as with Fire TV. The overall audio quality is really good when you're speaking through the G4 doorbell on both sides of the conversation, and I wasn't experiencing long delays in those kinds of conversations with people, so communication was easy and effective. And not only does this doorbell come with free 7-day cloud storage, but the chime doubles as a local storage solution when you add a micro SD card up to 512 gigabytes. In the future, Aqara has promised NAS storage options too, so at just over $100 US, this doorbell can leave a lot of others in the dust. That's especially true when you consider how much you normally spend on subscriptions with video doorbells.
2023 was the year of the presence sensor, and that was very apparent early on. Honestly, I'm so happy that we're moving on from motion sensors. I think it's important to understand that this change in the motion sensor will be similar for other types of sensors as we go forward. Think of it like this. A motion sensor is essentially a digital device. It tells you if there is motion or if there is not motion. Sometimes they have other sensors on board, but that's the basis of a motion sensor. It's also reading the wrong thing. Motion sensors are passive infrared sensors, which means that they're looking for that wavelength of light to change in the room. So when you, a person who emits infrared light, move through a space, it sees that. Of course, the big problem with that is that it's not just you that can trigger that. Hot air can do the same thing, or your dog, or a number of things. A presence sensor does a very different thing. It's using radar-like technology. And actually, I said that in another video and I was corrected in one of the comments. It is a radar tech. So it doesn't just provide whether or not movement is occurring. It provides distance, and when combined with some of the other software packages that we've seen, and you will see in the coming video, it's very useful for seeing where people are throughout a home. And then you can automate based on things like distance or even things like movement speed. Those things are going to come here. This is going to be something we can determine in the near future. These are analog devices, and it sounds a little weird for us to go back to analog when we left, record playing behind many years ago, or some of us did. But that's the reality, and that's what you're going to see happening to all of your sensors over time in a smart home. And many more of them are going to be based on technologies just like these millimeter wave presence sensors. This is the flippin' Aqara FP2. Holy smokes, what do we got going on here? Oh, I needed this. I needed that too. Separate story. Another time. Guys, the FP2 is a presence sensor that works with Aqara. This is the latest, the greatest we're gonna get from these guys. Ugh. Honestly, if you can't tell, I'm a little excited on this one. Holy smokes, we've got quite the... Look at this, look at this. Before I can get into what this thing can do, which is wild, let me tell you what you get in the box. So here is a screw and some other mounting hardware. I got 2 mounting plates. I'm not sure if that was on purpose or what, but I got 2 of these bad boys, and I've got 2 stickers that go with those mounting plates. Then I've got a serious manual, which is pretty much the case all the time with Aqara, and I've got a USB-A to USB-C cable. Now the sensor comes on its own stand, and you can see you've got the mounting hole at the back plus this stand, but I think for the most part
you're gonna be putting this against a wall, against a surface, upright, and this is gonna be coming out. Now, this is multi-people presence detecting. That is a wild thought. Most of the presence sensors you're gonna find today are gonna say, yep, there's someone in the room. This also has fall detection on it, and that is a very important sensor type for a lot of people today. Plus, all of this is happening locally through your Aqara system. This is really important for moving beyond things like our motion sensors. This is very, very different. Now, I've seen some of the mapping capabilities already on this device, so I am so excited. There's a little button on the bottom. The stand also includes a HomeKit code on it, and the USB-C port is on the underside here, so you're gonna be coming in with the cable into there. It's using Wi-Fi to connect to your home, but it also has Bluetooth. I believe it's Bluetooth 4.2. Now, this is only going to connect at 2.4 gigahertz. That's not a big deal for a device like this. It's not pushing out a ton of data, so that Wi-Fi at 2.4 gigahertz is going to be just fine. The Aqara FP2 is definitely the most complex and comprehensive sensor I have ever worked with. It's not perfect, but that's mostly because you will struggle to get the setup right. Everything from placement to direction to what you have in your home will affect how this sensor performs. There are so many settings that you have to work through and get just right to get this sensor working. But once you have climbed that mountain, you will be incredibly impressed with what you can do with your home. I've been able to create zones in the biggest room in my home, and while the maximum room size is 430 square feet, I've been able to split up a room around 400 square feet into 3 zones and have the device successfully know when I or anyone else in my household are moving between those spaces. Even more impressive is when there's a few of us in those spaces and automations are running because of that. Even more impressive is that I can automate with all of those zones through Amazon or Apple HomeKit. And I can get Google Home to announce that I'm in a zone as if a doorbell was being pressed. Now, the FP2 has to be wired in all the time, and that can make installation a little bit tricky. And it can make it a little bit ugly too. But this is a small price to pay, and you can deal with this in many ways. Now, it's best to place the FP2 up high, but you need to really consider what you're pointing at. Things like plants or window coverings that can move, fans, heaters, air purifiers, and many more things with moving objects or heat generation can impact this sensor. You can deal with that through the incredible mapping feature and something called interference sources. But it takes time, and you'll probably move the sensor a couple of times and maybe even move some of the items in your home to get everything working exactly right. But I tell you, I don't want to move this sensor anymore because I have some pretty incredible automations working, and the pricing for this product isn't outlandish. Although, I will say, I think some of you will end up with a couple of these in every room of your home. I'm being very careful with this box, okay? It's come from a very special person who has a very special place in my heart. I didn't even get a pretty note. That's fine, Lewis. You know what? Fine. It's coming from the United Kingdom. Okay? Little hint for you there. Now, I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna tell you what this is. No, I'm not. I'm not doing it. I hope I'm getting some instructions somewhere. All right, I've got everything out of the box. Here's what you're getting in the box when you buy from Lewis, the Everything Presence 1 board. Now, this is your main board here, okay? And it actually has a lot of components on that I'm gonna go through in a moment. We have the millimeter wave sensor. So this is your presence sensor in a lot of cases, or it's gonna spend time kind of after initial sensing of you coming into the space. It's gonna make sure that you're still in the space. I'm actually not too sure what these included pins are for. I think they're additional, just you have a 5-volt connection pin here. I'm thinking it's an additional set of that. And then you have your PIR sensor. Now the PIR sensor comes with 3 pins on it, and you're going to end up inserting it in to the main board, and you can see there's a space for that. And actually it's labeled here on the board, it says PIR for fast response. So that's the intention. This is gonna know you're coming into the space like your standard motion sensors. Now, the main chip on here, it's an ESP32, okay? And then what you have are these two connectors. There's one kind of at the top of the sensor and one down here on the side. Now, I read the documentation a little bit, and what's gonna happen is you're gonna pick where your millimeter wave sensor is gonna go. In general, they've kind of said you're gonna wanna do this. Now, that's going to give you good width or good horizontal distance on the sensor and not as much vertical, which I think you're gonna want in a lot of cases, depending on how you are going to mount this. The other way is obviously the exact opposite. So if I place it in here, there you go. Now, additionally, on this board, you actually have temperature and humidity down here in the corner. Then you have a light intensity or a luminance sensor as well. So you actually have quite a bit of different sensors on this. There are two options for powering and getting this device working in your home. There's a USB-C port right here, and there's a 5-volt couple of pins. And like I said, I think that's what I've got right here is an extra set of pins there. That's everything you get. Now, what happens is you take this right here, your box that this came in, and you scan the QR code, and what that does is that brings up the manual, and this has a lot of information. Lewis has done a good job explaining all the different components in here, and he's explained that you can print the official case, which apparently I didn't order. All right, now I don't have the case. I don't have any, I don't have anything. I should not be doing this, but I have faith that everything's gonna work out just fine. What's gonna go on here, I'm gonna place this in, okay? Easy connection, nothing difficult there. Now I have my millimeter wave sensor in. The next thing I'm gonna do is put my PIR in. I was a little rough there. I don't like what I was doing there. That got a little bit ugly, but we've made good connections. Now, for those of you who are interested in this sensor, and all the reviews thus far, all the people I've talked to have absolutely loved this. But understand that right now, it only works with Home Assistant. And that's actually something that I think I could work on with Lewis, and I think we could get an edge driver made for Samsung SmartThings or perhaps Hubitat. Either way, we should be able to get that done. So, let's see. So there is a reset and a boot button. I'm supposed to be able to find a Wi-Fi signal, and then I should be able to connect it to my home network. So this is not Zigbee, this is not Z-Wave, this is not anything else, it's Wi-Fi. And I actually think that's really smart from Lewis's point of view. I think in the future that's gonna give him a lot of options for updating this sensor, having it work with maybe even something like Matter. So it took a little bit of finagling, but I got onto the web address here. I'm putting in my credentials, I'm hitting save, and now it says it's gonna try to connect to the network. Please give it some time. So it's sitting on my network, and now I just gotta go open up a web browser, connect it to Home Assistant, which actually Lewis is saying should just happen immediately, automatically, and then we can play. So let's play. It would be hard to argue that this isn't one of the best sensors in the world, period. And in fact, technically I would say that it is, because the PIR motion sensor instantly knows when you're in the room and it has good range. Plus the presence sensor reacts very fast, and it's these two sensors plus the light sensor that can be combined with a few automations to really control your home well. The presence sensor can be tuned through simple setting changes, and so can the rest of your sensors, and because it's plugged in instead of battery powered, you can make configuration and settings changes that make those update fairly quickly. The sensor itself caught me as often as I thought it should, and it reacted very fast. And of course, because this is pairable with Home Assistant, the automations run locally and very quickly. So while this was expensive, all the other sensors embedded in this device, a great guide for setup and installation, and with it being Wi-Fi connected, this sensor has a lot of what people are after today, and you're not going to need a lot of them to cover your entire home with great automations. However, this is a fairly technical device, and there's a few reasons you might not want to get it. The first being, it's only Home Assistant, and I asked developers if they would work on it with me to bring it into SmartThings or Hubitat, and I haven't found anyone yet. The other thing is, you're gonna need it to be on a static IP, so if you don't even know how to do that, well, you're gonna struggle to get this working and stay working in your home, because every time it becomes disconnected, it'll choose another IP, and Home Assistant might not find it at that point. The other reason people might not want this sensor is because they'll be afraid of it. And the reason I say that is because you'll need to really think out how you want your smart home controlled. What I did is I used the PIR sensor to turn on devices, and then I used the occupancy after having it be on for a while to turn it into a lower setting with some of my lighting in the room. You might want to think about it that way, or you might really want to go in depth, produce scripts, and really build a smart home. This, if it is what I think it is, and it is, was kind of a gift to myself, but it was actually recommended, I believe it was Blackadder on Twitter. You know, he's always testing local devices, what he can add to Tuya, what he can add to a couple of different systems like Home Assistant, and this is a Zigbee version of a breathing presence sensor. So what are we gonna be able to do with this? I have no idea. Okay, we're in. Let's see. It's a fairly small, not super intimidating device, and it says hotel on the box. So I imagine a hotel could use something like that. Place it on the wall and maybe get some data about whether or not people are in the space. There's a disconnect here for me. Yeah, so that does not look like it. That does, but why is that on the box? And why is that there? I think maybe there's just two models of this thing, and I bought one. That's what it looks like. But I can't read that side of things, so I'm gonna read this side. Now, what you get in the box, more importantly, strange sticker. Looks like QA, QC, actual stickers that you can put, I'm sure, on the back of this, and then just a little bit of a power cable. Then you get the manual and the device itself. Now the device itself has a single button on the bottom, and then it has that micro USB port that you're gonna use with this cable. So here's everything that this says it can do. It looks like I've got a ceiling mount this thing actually, which I don't know whether I can do that here. Maybe I can do that here, but it says fretting detection, which is small movements such as hand lifting, hand flicking, and hand turning. Motion detection, all those things. Presence detection. So if you're just standing or sitting or even squatting still, it can detect you. Distance measurement, illuminance detection. So there's gotta be, there's some little holes on the front. I thought those were lights, but maybe it's light. And it looks like the range, be about 1 to 7 meters. Now that's gonna depend on the height of the ceiling. It's kind of got this kind of shape that it can detect in. So, I mean, honestly, with something like this, first of all, I've got to find a hub that I can connect it to. Can I even find that? I do have a Zigbee Tuya hub, so hopefully I can get it connected there, and then we'll try some other hubs and we'll see what we can get for data out of this bad boy. This was an extremely inexpensive device, and when compared to the every smart home presence sensor, it's not perfect, but only because it doesn't have a motion sensor paired with it. It's actually remarkably good at identifying how far away someone is from the device, and it was even able to track me as I moved behind walls. The automation options in the Smart Life app were enough to allow control of other devices in that app, like the lighting. However, you won't find that this presence sensor shows up in Amazon or Google or SmartThings, so you're not going to have those options for automation with the sensor. It does require the Zigbee hub that I've shown in previous videos, but the connectivity to that hub is really strong, and the configuration options in the Smart Life app really help you to fine-tune this sensor to be useful in your home. It's something I can surprisingly recommend if you have a lot of products in the Smart Life app. Now, you might have noticed that one of the sensors in today's video had multiple zones. And actually, I believe that the Everything One presence sensor now has zone detection too. But I haven't been using it a lot because I haven't been using a lot of Home Assistant and because I had some struggles with Samsung SmartThings throughout the year. But all of those sensors are very good, and they have their reasons each for existing in the platforms that they work best with. So feel free to ask me if you're uncertain about which one of those you want to use. You will see in this next year options in the order of 20 to 30 different presence sensors. You can buy all these different models, and there's even some DIY build kits if you want to get into that. Now, it's kind of funny to think about smart speakers, displays, and streamers having a bit of a resurgence this year. I think a lot of people thought smart speakers were at an end. This year, Amazon gave us some of the best speakers and displays that we've seen. Even more interesting is that they started to give us their voice assistant in other ways with the new Echo Buds and the new Echo Frame versions. So I don't think we're at the end of smart speakers. I actually think we're in a little lull, but they're about to be infused with these AI versions of our original voice assistant. Early adopters are probably going to pay a lot for that, with frustration and maybe even a little money, because Amazon's kind of stated they're going to charge us monthly for it. But what's coming is nothing short of impressive. Honestly, load ChatGPT onto your phone and use that as a voice assistant for a few hours. You'll be so impressed by the experience. You won't get the perfect answers, and you can't control things like your smart home yet, but you can have an actual conversation, and that's going to lead to a place with these smart home voice assistants that is very good. I don't know if we're 1 year away from it, but I don't think we're 3 years away from having very different conversations with voice assistants using even these smart speakers you're about to see. This is a big old box, and there is basically nothing in here. This is just paper. I have what they call Echo Buds. Now, this is the third generation of the Echo Buds, but it doesn't replace the first and second generation. This is kind of a more inexpensive version of what Amazon already sells. Now, I tell you, I love the look of this case, and I like the look of the design. So this might be an interesting entry-level option. Now, right off the bat, it does work with Amazon's application. So we're gonna have to use that to get these set up, and obviously it's gonna work with their voice assistant. Now, I should be able to take these out. There's a little more in the box that I'll show you in a second, and I should get 5 hours of playtime off the one charge. And then I should be able to get 20 hours of play from a full charge on this case. Now, the case is charging through a USB-C, and then you're just gonna place these in there. The only thing I'll say, this case is, it's hard to get that case open. Now, here they go. They've got a little, like a rubber cover on them. They're quite long, and that's kind of different than the other style of Echo Buds. I think, you know, if you're looking for kids or anything, they're a little big for that. So that'd be my kind of first, my initial take. So what you're getting in the box here, a couple of manuals. So yeah, I got 2 more of these little covers, kind of a custom deal. So I guess if you're ruining too many of those, you're gonna run into having to buy those from Amazon. I do not have a charging cable for the case, so you're gonna have to get a USB-C charger for that. Oh, so I just went into Amazon's app, and this is what we get. Right off the hop, the Echo Buds have been found. I don't have to do anything except agree and continue. I don't even have to read the agreement. I should probably read the agreement, but I'm not. Connecting, just a moment, and there's now a pairing request on my phone. So I'm gonna hit pair and connect.
Yeah, sure. One of the things that a lot of people worry about is how are these gonna fit? So right here, find the optimal fit. Now your only choice is to remove those little silicone, they're silicone covers on them. That's gonna give you a little more space, but that's it. So I can tap once to quickly play or pause music or podcast, and then skip to the next track with a double tap. And I get a little bing every time I do it. Now they're asking, what do I want to use these for? So this is an interesting question. What they're gonna basically take me through is, okay, if I'm using entertainment or I'm gonna use these for music, which, I mean, what else do you do with earbuds? Oh, you do calling, and you might also use them as a map function. I think for the most part, I'm gonna just use entertainment. I might use them for some calls. So now, as I've selected calling, it's now giving me the option to select hands-free messaging as well. So I'm just gonna enable all this stuff. Yeah, maps, find my buds. Yeah, I want you to find my buds. Map provider, yeah. So I've selected them all. I've selected everything I can. We're gonna go through the whole process. You also get equalizer controls, and you get some tap controls that you can modify. So if you'd like the right or the left to do different things, a single tap, well, I can change the right to be next track, or I can disable that tap. So you don't have to have the touch controls. If one of them is frustrating you, I think that's a really great addition to the settings. I'm just trying to get into the Find My part of the app, and so far, that's what I have. I have a whole blank page. Okay, there, it came up. Yep, it knows exactly where I am. I can get directions, and what's really interesting is that it's actually showing a different location for the left and the right. So you'll actually be able to have a look at those if they're in different places. You're going to be able to find them. Initially, when I saw the Echo Buds, I thought this was a bit of an odd product for Amazon to put out, but these are inexpensive, and so if the features and the quality are good, this might be a great option. So as I started to use them in my daily routine, initially I thought, well, okay, I've got to really push these things into my ear, but actually they're intended to just kind of sit there and not be deep into your ear's canal. That makes them really comfortable, and it also means they won't fall out if you just use them the right way. So that actually took me a couple of days to figure out, but once I did, these sat perfectly and they worked perfectly. They stay connected Bluetooth wise, and you're not going to believe what you can do from a Bluetooth perspective. From a smart home perspective, these are some of the most powerful earbuds out there today, and I'm going to show you just what I mean by that right now. This is a pretty wild thing going on with my Echo Bud. So I have this song, it's playing in my ears. I'm going right now. I can move forward if I'd like with the buds themselves. Okay, so now I'm going to hit pause, and now over here on my Pixel, I'm going to hit play. It's playing. Totally different. Okay, I'm just going to move that down. Now you can watch. I'm going to control it. There you go. I don't know what's going on. So, you know, YouTube's going to mess with me a little bit, YouTube Music, but here's another example. So I'm going to hold the earbud, and now I've brought up the Google Assistant over here. Okay, I'm going to pause it, and now I'm going to play here, and I'm holding the earbud, and look who I just brought up. That is unbelievable functionality. It gets one better too. So here's my Fire TV Cube. So I just connected, and it's showing right up there. So it's now in my earbuds, perfectly timed. I got no problems here. And all I had to do for this one was just tap on that right there. The really funny thing is I only had to tap on that because I had more than 2 devices paired. So if I only had 2 devices paired, this has been automatically switching between these two as I start playing content. So just gonna pause this, hit home. Okay, we're done there. I'm gonna go to my phone, go back, play. It's playing in my earbuds. Unbelievable features from Amazon. So if it's not clear to you, I can control my smart home with 3 different voice assistants depending on the phone I have and the one I've set as default. And I can switch between Bluetooth connections on 2 phones or a phone and a Fire television. The switching between is incredibly seamless, and it's just based on what's playing and what's not, and I haven't found it making any mistakes. Plus, the sound is really good. I have equalizer control inside of Amazon's app. I haven't sat here and wanted a better earbud in terms of quality. As soon as I got the earbuds, I made a call to my friend Brett. The side tone feature is really nice, and I like the VIP filter feature for making sure that I'm only getting notifications from the folks that I'd like. Plus, the customization of the tap controls is really powerful and really good, and the tap controls are extremely responsive. My only real concern about the device is that the Find My feature is not super powerful, and that's because it's not going to work if you've closed the earbuds into the case. Now, the case itself is really nice. It's a little hard to open the lid, but inside it looks great, outside it looks great. I'm not really making any scratches or anything as I use this on a daily basis, so I've been nothing but impressed with the strong battery life, the strong performance, and some pretty incredible smart home features with the Echo Buds. This one is a complete buy to me if you're looking for a budget set of earbuds. I have something tucked away in here that I think is gonna pop off the press. Let's check it out. This is the brand new Echo Pop from Amazon. Now, this is not necessarily a device that I think is going to blow you away in audio quality, but it is a smart speaker, which means it has Amazon's voice assistant on board, and it also can play music and podcasts and other content like that. Looking at this thing, this is quite a different color. I did not expect the dark level of this. Yeah, wow. That is really, really different. The other thing is we have these changes to the design that some people are gonna like, some people aren't gonna love. There's no 3.5 millimeter jack on the back of this. There's just a power cable. We haven't seen that in most Echo speakers in a little bit. That's not there, you're not gonna have that option. The light ring that we're used to being on the bottom of most Amazon speakers is now on the top, and it's much smaller than it was. There are 3 visible microphone ports because the whole thing isn't covered by cloth. And again, you know, you look at the Echo Dot, well, there's a lot of cloth covering on that. It's only the bottom here. But what I am instantly really liking is how clean the front of that can look. So, you know, if you're just sticking that in a corner somewhere, corner of your corner table at the very back, you're not going to see a lot, and the cable I think is going to be tucked away fairly well. I like the stand. It's angling this speaker in a very nice way, and I could see this design expanding further out and maybe not being so many globe ball speakers, maybe ending up with more of these in the corner of homes at a larger size. You get a few more things in the box. A couple of manuals. These things I never really look at. I don't know if you do, but I don't. And a 15 watt power supply. It looks exactly the same as your Echo Dot, your Echo Show 5s. very, very similar to what we get there. We're all connected. This is ready to go. And that's an impressive thing, actually. So this is something that if you kind of know the credentials in your parents' house, you could send them one of these. You just got to buy it under their account, make sure everything's connected, and then send them one. It's actually not that hard. The Amazon Echo Pop is a tiny speaker, and it's not going to be mind-blowing for any of you with its feature set. But this is a $40 smart speaker, and if we had received this just a few years ago, it would have sold millions and cornered the market. Google Home wouldn't exist at all if this came out instead of the 3rd generation Echo Dot. So while this isn't a groundbreaking speaker, and it's certainly not going to break any sales records in 2023, it is a relatively nice design, relatively good sounding for the price. It controls smart homes the same way much more expensive Amazon speakers do, and so much more. That makes it a great entry-level speaker. I think Amazon's done a great job at hiding this speaker behind the scenes. They've thought out the design really well for homes, and then they gave it some color to make sure it would fit a bunch of different situations. Now, I won't recommend this speaker to experienced automators like yourselves because there's nothing new except the way it looks. However, if you're just dipping your toes into the waters of home automation, then this is actually where I will tell most people to go because it does 99% of what every other Amazon smart speaker does. Now, if you want to find out the details about that, then watch our full review of the Echo Pop through the links below or on screen now. This is the brand new Amazon Echo Show 8. This is the 3rd generation smart display. I've got the 2nd generation sitting over there. We're gonna find out what these differences are today. The big reveal. Much more rounded. Instantly you can see that difference. The bottom of this is completely different. The camera has been centered. There's a lot going on here already. It's a 30-watt power supply. You get a couple of books that help you get started, important information, and that's all you're getting in the box with the new Echo Show 8. Now, right away, let me show you these differences. So you can see the bottom, but probably the most prominent difference to me is how this screen is mounted. You see those gaps there? That's looking very different than the 2nd generation. I do like the layout of the buttons much better on the new Echo Show 8. I think that is very beneficial to people. They're clearer. I understand more what's going on because of the gap. I'll know naturally where those buttons are sitting. The other thing is in the back here. So we used to have this micro USB port. That always frustrated people because they could never do anything with it really. But then we have the power port back there, and on the new one, it's a big old power port. Feels a little awkward just kind of sitting out there. Otherwise, I think the differences that we're going to experience are physically when you're working with this product. They have some new processing embedded in here, as they do with most of their new products. They have some new features. They're really focused on creating content for you at this point, or giving you content. Like this has access to all of the new Fire TV channels that we've seen kind of coming out.
To get started, please select your device language. To hear the languages spoken out loud, swipe right or left anywhere.
I'll tell you a couple things I've noticed right off the bat with this. The screen, it's brighter. It feels brighter, it looks brighter, it's a little sharper than the previous generation. I'm seeing that immediately, and you can see it within things like even that screen. The text is just a little sharper. I would just say the contrast is better. As I look at this, very clean, very clear screen. It took about 5 minutes, and now we're fully updated. You might find that with these devices, but now I get to pick kind of what's on the home screen. I'm just gonna go very, very simple to start off, but you can upload pictures to Amazon Photos. Another big feature of this, with a 13 megapixel camera, actually this could be very useful as a smart home camera, and you can set it up to monitor your home. So I just hit go ahead, enable that, and that does give you some options from the perspective of automation as well when people walk in front of this camera. From the music perspective, this thing is way better. Spatial audio is a thing. I just asked Amazon to play some popular music, and I switch back and forth between these two speakers. Now, I don't think that this is any louder than this speaker. In fact, this might end up being a bit louder. It's not gonna matter. The way this third generation sounds is what you're gonna be after. This is clear. It's crystal clear. As I turned this speaker, moved it around, which would be you moving around your home, I didn't feel big changes in how it sounded. I did notice that I was in a different direction, so spatial audio is there, but it doesn't sound bad in any location. I'm not feeling the balance being wrong at any spot, even right behind this. A few years ago, what's been packed into the Echo Show 8 would have been considered an absolute wonder of the world. Now today, it's hard to look at them with the same wonder and amazement because we've become used to what we're getting. But Amazon continues to make strong, meaningful advancements with their smart displays, and although I didn't love the Echo Show 5, this design is much more impressive. This is a music player, it's a video player, it's a Bluetooth speaker, it's a communication device, it's a smart home camera, it's a smart home hub with Matter, Thread, and Zigbee, and now Amazon has added some things that make this work together really well. I had written off spatial audio as a feature because I just haven't felt like most of the content we consume can even use spatial audio. And while not everything you will play on the Echo Show 8 will perfectly use this speaker system, these are fantastic and you feel the spatial audio in just about everything. Video playing is just as easy, and if you're a Prime subscriber, then you have access to a ton of content. You can also get Netflix and Hulu and other services on the device, and the screen is brighter. I would say that the depth of color and the blacks are a little better on this version versus the previous generations, but that reflective screen still makes it an imperfect viewing experience, and if you go too far back, the 8-inch side will restrict what you can see. Amazon's also adding the Fire TV channels experience, which I was able to get on the Echo Show 10, but for some reason it's not quite working on this display yet. I assume that bug will get worked out, and then you'll have a ton of content options on top of the video homepage. The camera is very good, and at 13 megapixels plus the new auto framing feature on this device, this rivals the Echo Show 10 and its ability to spin in order to keep you in frame. I like that Amazon made this a slow moving zoom and pan feature when the camera is doing its auto framing, but it's surprising just how far this camera can track you. The new adaptive content option is surprisingly nice. As you move away from the device, you can see a shift in the content, and then it shifts again when you get close. I like the new quick navigation bar as it lets me get to everything from communication to my notifications and even smart home control. I also like the gestures option, and it's actually working for me from a pretty significant distance. And from the content perspective, Amazon's starting to build options to create your own content, especially when it comes to kids. They released the new Miss A Create feature that allows kids to create their own stories, characters, and adventures. Although there is a subscription component to that, with some of the options being behind a paywall. From that smart home perspective, the interface does exactly the same things as the previous one, but with that Matter, Thread, and now a Zigbee hub in the Echo Show 8, this is my favorite smart display from them in terms of bang for the buck. There's just nothing here I can point out as wrong, except for the standard issues that people have with Amazon smart displays. Those standard issues are what people call advertisements on the homepage. And listen, Amazon's entire objective is to sell you this device and then sell you subscriptions and sell you things on their website. So that will happen to you as you use the device. But even that is improving, and the interface now gives you the ability to adjust what you're seeing on that home screen through likes and dislikes. Plus you can play things right from the main screen, so you'll be able to trend that main home screen to how you'd like it. You'll do that using the like and dislike buttons, as well as some additional settings that let you turn off anything else you don't want to see on the home page. So it will never be a quiet display, except in the evenings if you put it next to your bed. But this is the best display from Amazon, especially when we consider the price, and I can see a number of reasons today that you would and could upgrade if you have a second generation device. An upgrade of something shiny. I swear those don't work. Yes, it is the new Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. This is a much bigger box. The reason for upgrading today, you know what, it's gonna depend on who you are, but a couple of the reasons you might look at this: Wi-Fi 6E is available on that, so that's 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi. You might also want it for one of the new features, actually, one of the new ports on this device. On the packaging, they're giving us some optimal placement instructions, actually. You know, at first I thought this adapter was white and I was gonna have something to complain about with Amazon, but actually, I have something else to complain about Amazon. I can't get into your, come on, it keeps ripping. There, that'll do, rabbit. That was pretty good. Here's everything you get in the box. Couple of manuals that tell you where to go and who to be. Couple of batteries for your Amazon voice remote. There is an option to buy this with the Voice Remote Pro, which I could swear I did, but didn't get it. Then you have the power adapter, which is specifically made for your Fire TV Cube 3rd generation, and the Fire TV Cube itself. When you compare the two, honestly, there's not much comparison in terms of the look and feel of this right off the bat. I think the cloth was a really important improvement, and actually the edges are quite rounded. This 2nd generation, like, it'll still cut me. It's been years and this knife won't get dull. The top even looks a little more refined. The buttons look a little better. Now on the back, you're probably noticing a lot of differences, and I think a lot of these differences are really important. That HDMI input, that's a really important component because it allows you to connect game consoles. You can switch over to watching or playing games instead of watching the Fire TV. And then you can connect cable boxes. Some cable boxes are officially supported. And something really important about this is Dolby MAT, Dolby MAT enabled. So you are going to be able to pipe Dolby content through that. Now, another thing that you can buy with the Fire TV Cube 3rd generation is an IR extender. That would get you the ability to control other devices, although I have found it fairly limited what you can control with that, so maybe have a look at their list of what they can do. The HDMI out, pretty much the same on these two devices, and really the power port is very similar. Now what happens on the older Fire TV Cubes is you have this micro USB, and that's how you could connect all kinds of different things, from USB sticks to a lot of other peripherals like an Ethernet adapter. But this time Amazon gave us a 10/100 megabits per second Ethernet port directly on here and a USB-A. So that's obviously going to allow you to split out those components and do more with this. Now that USB port can be very powerful for connecting more storage, and that can let you get more onto this device in general. But let's boot her up, see what she sounds like. Volume buttons. So here's the plus. That's as loud as it goes, but honestly, it's pretty loud for what is essentially a voice interface. You're not going to use this as your TV's speaker. There's the microphone mute button. And this is basically to call up the voice assistant instead of saying the wake word, which you can do. And that's one of the benefits of the Fire TV Cube over Fire TV sticks. You have the ability to just call up the voice assistant instead of using the voice remote, which does have a button on it. You can hold that and then you'll be able to speak into the mic and give commands to this device. The remote itself, this feels a lot bigger to me. I'm pretty sure it is. Now, that's the voice remote button at the top. Otherwise, you have all the different controls that you might need. You can go back to the home page and there's always this menu button for bringing up additional options. Plus, you have these other control elements for moving around your television. There's the 4 quick buttons down at the bottom. You have the volume and channel up buttons, which would work with those cable boxes if you have them. One other big benefit of this versus, some of the Fire TV sticks, although the 4K Max has this feature as well, there's a live picture-in-picture option for some of the connected doorbells and cameras. You can actually ask for them to come up, or when they're rung, you can have them show up in a picture-in-picture format so it doesn't actually interrupt your viewing. The other nice thing about Fire TV Cubes that you might not know, although this does go back to the 2nd generation, you can connect webcams to this. So that USB port on the back there would allow you to do that too. There's nothing to do now except get this set up, test out the content. I'm expecting it to be very similar to the previous Fire TV Cube and the Fire TV 4K Max with some minor differences, but let's get this set up and see what it does. After playing with this for a while, this is clearly the fastest Fire TV device I've worked with. Moving around the interface is incredibly snappy now, and downloading of apps was fast, plus the resolution came in very quickly off of the Wi-Fi connection I was using, so I'm not even using Ethernet yet. Setup took moments because I could just connect it to an existing account, and that's part of the ease of buying from Amazon directly. Amazingly, in minutes, I was able to download Amazon's Luna gaming service, and Prime members get a few games to play. Now, that's only available in the US, but I'm going to use a VPN that I have access to in order to be able to play those games. I've done it before, and it's a lot of fun. And of course, you can connect Bluetooth controllers, and some of the games use the remote itself. Now, the remote itself is a little bit loud as you click the main navigation buttons. It's a little bit louder than it was in the past, so be ready for that little change, plus the size difference. I really do enjoy that the lights on the device turn off after a few seconds, so you're not having that mute red light sitting there all the time on the device. It just fades away. So from an overall standpoint, this is the best Fire TV Cube and the best Fire TV experience. That was a pretty heavy Amazon-infused section. And honestly, that's because Amazon's about the only smart speaker game in town. But you saw the Echo Buds, and you saw the Fire TV Cube, which doubles as a speaker and as a smart streaming device. It'll be interesting to watch the next generation of Fire TV Cubes and Echo shows, because Amazon's poised to replace the Android operating system on both of those. That will mean no side loading on Fire TV Cubes, or at least I think a lot less. And I don't know that that's gonna go really well. I think a lot of people really enjoy being able to side load and do different things with the Fire TV devices. That's a lot of the interest in those, so Amazon needs to be careful with that one. Now, when I go really in depth into how to build a smart home, I often talk about 7 layers of automations. Voice control with all those speakers is one of the things that you do when you need to randomly deal with something. Most automation is about dealing with the same situation over and over again, but then you have to deal with those moments where things are a little different or a little off. Now, voice is great, but not everyone loves that method, so buttons are one of the most effective ways, and these are some of the very best to add to your home. Let's get into it, because it's a pretty big deal.
That's what she said.
Ooh. What a weird package.
That's what she said.
This is the Philips Hue tap dial switch. You can barely tell what's going on the box. I guess Signify doesn't really care about retail. Oh, ripping my box already. Now, this should allow you only to control your Philips Hue lighting. So if you don't have Philips Hue, don't get upset at me right now. We'll try to find a way around it. Wow. Now, I will say, that looks pretty nice. There is not a lot in this box. So you get a couple of manuals. I mean, this one I think is your wireless guidelines. Here's a tiny user manual. You get the wall plate with, on the back, there are some 3M strips. So this would be something you could just stick on. And then you get the Hue dial switch itself. Now, it is a magnetic, and there's a little notch in both of these that you can get that dial onto correctly. So they're just making sure that you have it right. Obviously, you could take this with you because it's Zigbee, it's wireless, and there's just a little battery in it. Now you have 4 different buttons for scenes on the device, and you have the dial. It's a 2032 in there. It's quite a deep compartment for that battery. So there is a setup button inside, really hard to see that one, and otherwise this device is done other than your physical installation, which you could do a ton of ways. That's not magnetic, but you've got a magnetic wall plate to go. So I went through the manual for the Hue dial switch, and it's actually very different than I thought. This could be used without a Hue bridge at all. You can just pair it directly to a light. So this actually removes the requirement at some level for that, as long as you're good controlling it from here. Now you can pair it obviously directly to the hub. You got a long hold on here. There's the setup button inside of the compartment as well to get that all paired and working correctly with the hub, but you can actually just hold this within 10 centimeters of a Philips Hue light. You're able to pair the two directly together. Working with the Philips Hue tap dial switch was incredibly easy, and the configuration inside of the app is almost limitless. For each button, you have a press and hold. You can't configure the press and hold, it's always lights off. But whenever you hit the press button, then you get a number of different behavior options depending on the lights that you're controlling. For a lot of the rooms, you will just find the options between a single scene, a scene cycle, and time-based light. Now, time-based light means that you can set different times and different behaviors around the color temperature of your lighting. The scene cycle allows you to move between different scenes that you have associated with your lights. And the dial itself, I configured to use different lights throughout my home, so you can really customize which lights you're using. The one thing that I ran into was that I had to create some zones in order to use the color features, and I wasn't getting dynamic scenes just yet. Although I do expect dynamic scenes to work. There's a logo on this box, and things are about to get twisted around here. We have the brand new, finally released Flic Twist. I'm excited for this one. That's a big device too. Look at this thing. It is bigger than the hub. Now the star of the show is obviously the Flic Twist, and that's what we're gonna focus on, but they've actually sent me the Flic Hub Mini. This is a brand new hub from Flic. They also sent me some sticker sheets. Here you go, 3 different sticker sheets. I mean, there's a lot going on just with that. Those are smaller than the previous Flic buttons would have taken, so I think you're gonna be able to place them around the edge. I'm not 100% sure. And then they sent me this really interesting thing. This is in mint condition. It's a first generation Flic button, and they say when they release like their whole Matter update, this will work with Matter. So things are getting a little crazy over in Flicland. You get a little video guide card. There's a sticker, and they're telling you right on it affix this side to the back and affix the other side to your surface, wherever you want to mount that. I popped off this cover already, and this is intended to be able to be like a screw mount. The other thing that they're giving you are two AAA rather batteries that are already in here. So this is ready to be paired with a hub, and I have a Flic hub, the IR version, in my home. That's kind of the more comprehensive version. As I put the batteries in, I can feel the magnetic plate as I go into here. And there we go. There is Flic Twist booting up. And now we can, you see it down here, add that Flic to the hub. And all they want me to do, press and hold my Flic until it connects. Okay. Like that was it. That was pretty simple stuff. Now with this, you're getting a number of new control methods. So it's not just push, double push, and hold anymore. You actually don't have that hold function anymore. As I go into the twist menu, there's brightness, color temperature, color, saturation, volume, and even our blinds. And then there's two advanced modes, and there's a third advanced mode coming called selector. That's gonna really mash up things, but this is already pretty wild. Now, advanced dimming, if I understand this correctly, this is quite the interface on here. You can hit the plus on the sides, and this allows you to continue entering additional functions as you go through the twisting. So you see all these little, well, they're buttons. If I tap into one of those, I get this dimming point. Okay, so, you know, in this case, since I tapped way over on the right clock hand Wyze side, I'm on dimming point 4 of 4. So what I can do at that point is I can add devices or actions. And at that moment, I get to pick the saturation, the brightness, whether they're color or they are white. Now I'm gonna put it at blue, just like it is right here. And then I can also hit actions. So at the same time, this is not just controlling this one device. At the same time, if I am push and twisted all the way to the left, then I can cause actions to happen throughout all my other stuff. This is wild. Okay. Now, I've set up a number of the different features, so we're not just gonna do brightness anymore. Now within the twist function, I have a scene blender. Now with the push twist, I have an advanced dimming. Then I have a push, just a toggle, keep the color, so I can do, there's a push, on, off. And if I double tap, it will actually change to a random color. Now it seems to be picking the same color for all the lights that I've included there. It's really interesting. Now, let's just do a scene blender. And it has a bit of a different automation when you choose this scene blender. Like it's just moving that light around. Very, very interesting stuff. You can tell, pretty wild, right? Okay, so now let's do the push twist. And I think with the push twist, it's gonna be a bit interesting. You know, obviously you're gonna have to have that on a surface, but now I can push twist and it's filling up the light bar, and now it's reducing the light bar. And again, like lots going on. And I'm only using lights, guys. This is only with lights from Phillips Hue. There's so much more I can do here. Now I want to show you the most interesting feature with Flic Twist. It's called Selector, and this makes the whole setup page really wild and the whole setup process really wild. But if I go into Selector, and I can only do this under push twist, you can't actually choose Selector. This is where it sits when you're just doing a twist function. But here in Selector, I can go into each position individually. So this is 11 o'clock, here's 10 o'clock, here's 9 o'clock, and you can set up each one individually. Now I've gone to the advanced mode, so that's why I have all of these. And what you're going to be doing is switching between the modes. This is a push twist function, and that should be 11 o'clock. Not 100% sure yet, but as I go in, now I can configure what the device does in that mode. So right now you can see I have an adjust brightness on a certain group of lights. I have a push and I have a double push that both go to Amazon. Now, when you're in Amazon and you're creating a routine, here's what it looks like. This is the wild thing. So I'm just setting up the double push. Okay, so when I'm on 11 o'clock and double push is pressed, then I can set up whatever I'd like to have happen. So I'm going to demonstrate this in a moment with my Govee M1 upstairs. So I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to pick a scene, and we're going to use the forest scene for this one just because it's going to be very different than the other one I just created. But I just created 2 Flic Twist scenes with selector. Now that's at 11 o'clock, and what you'll notice, so here's at 11 o'clock in the Flic app. If I go to the 10 o'clock, I have something totally different going on. These are triggering smart things scenes within the 10 o'clock. So let's go play with this. If you look around this, that gives you 33 different actions you could take as you move around there. You're obviously going to need some of those stickers that they gave us in order to make this work just right. But when you do it, boy, can you do a lot with Flic Twist. That's an Amazon routine running. And if I just go over here, now I can run different things. Look, I'm changing the color of that down there now. Amazing stuff. We waited forever for Flic Twist, but wasn't worth it. Well, you're gonna see some reviews come out and be disappointed, and there are reasons for that. But what this does and what this will do is absolutely beautiful. Now, the twist and the push and twist features work extremely well with directly integrated systems like Phillips Hue, Sonos, and I'm sure the IKEA Aqara Hub with blinds and light. A really great use case for this is to add in lights as you're halfway through a twist or a push and twist. And it's really great to shift colors either together or separately with these advanced dimming features. But as we received Flic Twist, there were some issues. I couldn't get Samsung's SmartThings scenes to execute, and I couldn't get Amazon's routines to start either. Plus, I couldn't get Google's cast-based volume control to adjust. But that was only with the twist and the push and twist features. All of those things still work when you push or double push the button. Now, Flic has since fixed this, and some reviews came out without that fix. So just understand that there's more here than there was on launch day. You know, I think that's the other big disappointment that people will have. If you don't see your service in this list, then you can't control it directly with Flic Twist. This is the same as the Flic buttons before because nothing has changed in terms of the services. The only change is you're being given those extra 2 control methods with Twist. Now, I didn't realize it when I first opened the package, but this is what's called the mixed color version, and that's only going to be available for a limited time. Otherwise, these come in a solid white or a solid black, and while the price is high for this controller, there are going to be some situations where nothing will work better. Now, I can't wait for the next 2 years to see what the team at Flic come up with for improving this device further. Because I guarantee this device is just going to get better with future Matter controllers coming from Flic and just the general ingenuity that we've seen from this team. If you think about everything they've been able to do with a simple push button, well, I can't wait to see what they do with a twist. I bought me something that's pretty special. Well, I think it's special. It's the Fire TV Remote Pro. Now, probably a lot of you have already seen a few videos about this. I saw Stu did one. I saw a couple other creators have already done videos with this. But the idea here, or the biggest part to me, is that the Remote Pro, number one, it's a bigger remote, it's got a few extra buttons, but the biggest thing is that you can execute Amazon routines with this bad boy. In the box, what do you get? Well, a couple of manuals, couple of batteries, couple of AAA batteries, and the remote. Now, if I'm being honest, this remote, it feels a lot different. Look at the differences here. So, well, it might be the same depth, but it doesn't feel like it because it seems like it's a bit wider. This is actually shorter, and it feels a little bit less deep in terms of its dimensions versus the one I just got with the new Fire TV Cube. So this is a longer remote. This is kind of returning back to the same length as the other ones. The other big thing that I noticed here is the buttons light up. Now, how did I get those buttons to light up? I don't even know. Maybe there's a light sensor. There's some kind of light sensor on this that is turning on these buttons when I press it. So I think if it's dark enough, yeah, and it's the light up is happening on all of these buttons. So this is gonna be a much better remote. It's enough that now I get why I bought it. And then of course, the biggest thing that you're getting with this are those two routine buttons. Let me show you what they can do. So to justify that extra spend, Amazon had to do a few things very well. I think they did enough for most of us, as the Find My Remote feature is excellent, as long as you don't take it very far away from your Fire TV Cube or stick. The buttons glowing actually work really well because they only glow when you pick up the remote or you move it. Then it glows for as long as it needs to, and then it turns off the lights to save power. And finally, the shortcut buttons can do anything that Amazon's routines can do. That means they are incredibly powerful, and I just wish I had a few more. In order to use them this way, you have to create a routine that you would otherwise start with your voice with Amazon's voice assistant. Once you have created that routine, then you head to your Fire TV with the remote and you start that routine using the remote and your voice. Then you hold the routine button 1 or 2 for 5 seconds, and up will pop the menu that shows you all the different things you can pick from. Now you can pick from many standard actions, so they can be buttons that help you navigate around your Fire TV. Or if you want that voice command that starts your routine, it'll show up at the top of the list of choices for that button. Then you pick that command, and from that point forward, when you press that button, the routine will run. Otherwise, the pairing process was as easy as it should be, and the way the remote works in general is just as good as any other. So this is an easy recommendation to make if you want to do that extra bit of control and you just want to be able to find your remote. Thank you so much for watching the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed every minute of the video. If you want to see how things changed year over year, you go back to 2022, and there are some incredible products in that video that I couldn't show here today because things have gotten so good in this industry when it comes to individual products. Otherwise, thanks for watching today. Thanks for watching all year. And of course, live smart.